blue, blue suede shoes. Big blue, blue suede shoes. Yeah. Big blue, blue suede shoes. Big blue, blue suede shoes. You can do anything, boy, yeah, with my blue suede shoes.
Big round of applause for third floor. Good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome to enlightED, to the third and last day of this second edition. I know, good things come to an end, bad things as well, so carpe diem. As I was saying, the second edition of this 2019. My name is Elena, and I am thrilled to be back on this stage, to be your MC this morning. And what a morning we have prepared for you. We have a fantastic program made up of 2 keynotes and 2 panels. After that, I invite you all to join us at the arena stage for the closing ceremony of South Summit. And when I was rehearsing for our next and our first keynote speaker, I realized it's amazing that in the 21st century, children around the world get bored and confused in classrooms, whilst the tools to engage them and to improve their learning already exist. In this sense, our speaker has said that the biggest risk to schooling is not that it's inefficient, costing a lot of money, but the biggest risk is that it's becoming obsolete. And we need to reframe what young people need to learn in order for them to be prepared for their future, not for our past. Well, he's been schooling himself over decades on education because he's the Director of Education and Skills of the OECD, and he's also the mastermind behind the PISA report, which, as you know, compares schools around the world. He is, arguably, the person that knows more about the global education landscape in the world. And he has written a book, a fascinating one, with all the lessons he's learned over the years. This book is entitled World Class: How to Create the 21st Century School System. And the good news is that Fundación Santillana is giving the book for free. This book, you cannot buy it. It's for free. After his talk, you can join us at the exit. Well, he will be signing the book, and you can take a copy home. So you have no excuse now to find out all the keys to the school of the 21st century. Please join me in welcoming Andreas Schleicher. Welcome.
Thanks, Elena.
Andreas.
Thank you. Buenos dias and good morning. Most of us know how to build a world-class school. Actually, right here in Madrid, you find many world-class schools. But what has been so difficult is to build a world-class education system that ensures that every student benefits from excellent learning. No? You know, I started my career in medical research, and the first thing we do is, look at the patient. We try to think about, what can we do for these patients? What's the right medicine? In school, we still give everybody the same medicine. And then some people become healthy, develop very well, and many fall behind. It's so hard to build a world-class school system, and the gap between what our societies are looking for and what schooling produces is not becoming smaller, it's becoming wider. We track the quality of learning very carefully at the OECD, including through our PISA comparisons. And we started this in the field of science in the year 2006. That's a long time ago for many of us. It was the year before the iPhone was invented. Twitter was still a sound, the Amazon still a river. Many things we take for granted didn't exist, but when you look at schooling in the most advanced nations, we've seen not much change in the way we educate our children. And the world didn't stop in 2009. Remember, that was the year when maps became dynamic, Google Maps driving us, cars became electric, starting to drive without a driver. But again, we haven't seen that translating better learning outcomes. And if you just think about the time between 2012 and 2015, robotics, cloud computing, virtual reality, biogenetics, big data, huge changes in the world around us, and actually education starting to go backwards. We teach our children more things, but their depth of understanding seems to be declining. And if you look at this at Spain, it's very much the same story. Very much stagnancy. A gap between what the world expects and what we do is actually becoming wider. There are very few education systems that have bucked that trend. You can see, for example, Portugal has been able to keep moving forward. And you can look to Asia, Singapore, moving from good to great, or some regions in China I can no longer put on the map. So yes, some systems have succeeded, but it's been hard. And the first thing we think about, just put more money into the system, but actually that works up to a point. For poor countries, you can see there is a relationship. More money is very, very important to achieve better outcomes. But for most countries, it matters a lot more how we invest our resources than just putting more money into the system. The same is true with time. There's a huge difference in the amount of time that students spend in school. In blue, you can see the time, the learning hours in school per week. In yellow, the learning time at home or private tutoring, whatever. And you can see a country like the United Arab Emirates. Students spend close to 60 hours learning per week. And then at the same time in Finland, is only a little bit more than half of that. Huge differences in the amount of time that students spend learning. But when you look at productivity in this system, you can see in Finland or Germany or Switzerland or Japan, students learn a lot in very little time. Whereas in the United Arab Emirates, they spend a lot of time and they learn rather little. In Spain also, you can see it's not so much a question of time. It's more a question of how do we use that precious good, the student learning time. Very important lesson. Of course, it's easy to say, very, very hard to change. One of the things that we can see is actually that the status quo has many protectors. Sometimes we as parents are part of the problem, not the solution. We get very anxious when our children no longer learn things that were very important for us. Or even more so when they do learn things that we no longer understand. Teachers are more likely to teach how they were taught themselves than how they were taught to teach. And as a minister of education, you can lose an election over education. But you never win an election over education because it takes so much time to translate good ideas into better outcomes. The plant of education is growing very slow, often overnight. So it's really hard to change things. But if you ask yourself, what do world-class systems do? The first thing is they move from just sorting people where only some people succeed to helping every student succeed because they understand that different students learn differently. And they embrace the diversity of students, the diversity of learning styles with very differentiated approaches to learning. Teachers being capable to see how different students learn differently, and school systems being open to foster this. They've also advanced from, just teaching students something to giving them a reliable compass and the navigation tools to find their own way through their world. Now, this is about, complex ways of thinking, complex ways of working. And of course, that commands a very different caliber of teachers. In the past, we tell teachers what to do, how to teach, where to teach, and so on, and then we expect things to go okay. Today, if you look to the most advanced education systems, teaching has become a high-level knowledge profession. Teachers spend some time in the classroom, of course, but they spend also time, as researchers, as designers, as facilitators. They're embedded in a very complex world. They are connected through digital technologies, become a very, very different profession. And of course, high-level knowledge workers don't like to work in a factory. No. Our schools are still designed as, factories. No. what you can see in the most advanced systems that, you talk less to your supervisor, to your school principal, to your government. You talk more to the next teacher, to the next school, to the next education systems. Information flows are no longer just vertical, but they're increasingly lateral. Those are some of the elements of world-class school systems, and let me talk about some of them in more detail. First, if you look forward, in the OECD era, we now have more broadband connections than we have people. Everybody's got connected. And that's fueling the rise in artificial intelligence. And that pushes us to think much harder about what makes us human. The great industrial revolution has taught us how to educate second-class robots, people who are compliant with the norms of the industrial economy. In the age of artificial intelligence, we need to think harder what it makes about first-class humans. Now, how do we complement the artificial intelligence of computers with the knowledge, the skills, the attitudes, the values of humans? Now, when you think about this, half of 15-year-olds in the PISA test say, I feel really bad if I'm not connected. Now, being part of the digital world has become like drinking water and breathing air for young people. Now, and you can see, if you think about digitalization, that's been incredibly democratizing. Students and teachers are at a level playing field. Students now have access to the same resources than their teachers. And the same happens in society. We can all collaborate, connect. But technology has also concentrated power at a rate that we have never seen before. Technology is incredibly particularizing. The smallest voice can be heard everywhere. You post something on Twitter and everybody can listen to you. But it's also incredibly homogenizing, squashing individuality, cultural uniqueness. Questions around identity become at the center of world-class education. That's the kind of technology is pushing everything together, and it's harder to find yourself. Technology has been incredibly empowering. You can see that right here in Madrid. Now, the most successful companies these days have the product before they have the money. They don't start with a big company, they start with a big idea. That's the power of technology today. It really enables us to change the world for better or for worse. But technology can also be incredibly disempowering when we become the slaves of computer algorithms these days that tell us whether to turn left and right or how we feel and so on. And if technology understands us better than we do understand ourselves, we are at the limits of our development. So actually, and where you end up on this chart has a lot to do with the education and the schooling. The kinds of things that are easy to teach, easy to test, have become easy to digitize, to automate. Those things are disappearing very, very fast. And I say this right here in Madrid. A lot of the schooling is still about memorization, helping people absorb knowledge. But that knowledge is a commodity available for everyone together, and it is sort of disappearing from our societies, our labor markets. Think about it this way. 10 years ago, everybody got those little devices in their hands. And soon the virtual world and the real world became to integrate it. And then everybody got connected. But while some things got easier, other things got much harder. When you think about, 20 years ago, to teach someone to read was straightforward. It was about a set of techniques to extract knowledge from texts. And when you didn't know the answer to a question, you can look it up in an encyclopedia, and you can trust the answer to be true. Today, you look up information on Google or wherever, and you find 100,000 answers to your question. Nobody tells you what is right and what is wrong, what is true, what is not true. Literacy is no longer about extracting knowledge. Literacy in the digital age is about constructing knowledge. A very different set of knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values. Much harder to teach, much harder to learn. Putting learning at the center, experiential learning at the center. And I said, how wonderful it is that technology connects all of us. But the reality is, technology connects you with people who think like you, who look like you, who are like you. No? Technology actually makes it harder to experience different ways of thinking, different ways of walking. No? That's the role of world-class schooling, to help people understand the nuances of the world. No? Think across the boundaries of disciplines. No? Connect the dots where the next innovation is going to come from. No? Those are the challenges of world-class education. No? When you look at this, it's about knowledge, it's about skills, but it's also about attitudes and values. No? Artificial intelligence is very powerful, but all it is, it's a great amplifier. It's a great accelerator. It amplifies good ideas, good practice, and it amplifies bad ideas and bad practice. What it means, it makes the humans much more important. Artificial intelligence is ethically neutral, but it's always in the hands of people who are not neutral. So questions around attitudes and values suddenly get from the margins of 20th century education to the center in 21st century education. And let's think about knowledge also in a little bit more detail. When you think about knowledge, the first thing you think about disciplinary knowledge. But actually, when you look at world-class systems today, they put much greater emphasis on deep epistemic understanding. Not how much do you know in biology and chemistry, but can you think like a scientist? Can you design an experiment? Do you understand cause and effect? Can you distinguish questions that are scientifically investigable from questions that are not? No? Can you think like a philosopher? No? Can you think like an historian? No? History is not about names and places. It's about understanding how the narrative of a society has emerged, how it has developed, how it's advanced, sometimes how it unravels when the context changes. What does it mean for the time in which we live today? Thinking like an historian. That's the one thing that you can really see, that world-class systems shift the balance from teaching students something to giving them the tools and ways of thinking. Why is this important? Because, in a world of science, the facts, the way of the world, that will change very quickly. But if we do not master the foundations of a discipline, we will get lost in the world of Google. No? Very important shift. No? And knowledge, you can actually see that here. Memorization that was very practical, very useful in the past, helps us somewhat, but actually hurts us most. When you look at the PISA test, memorization helped people to get some easy tasks right. But as the problems became more complex, in this case, where you need to reason mathematically, understand fundamental mathematical concepts, actually memorization is hurting you. What matters is the capacity to connect what you do not know with what you know, to be able to elaborate, think out of the box, extrapolate from what you know, apply your knowledge in an unforeseen, novel situation. Those are the things that matter most. But knowledge is only the starting point. The dimension of skills is as important. And when you think about skills, the first thing you think about is cognitive skills. Creativity, critical thinking, and so on. And yes, they're very important. But at least as important these days are the social and emotional skills of people. Empathy, curiosity, courage, leadership. In a world of technology, those become increasingly important. That's what neuroscience is telling us. That's what employers are telling us. You get all the same message. But in our education system, we're still quite far away from that. We talk about social skills, of course. It's written into every curriculum. But when you look in schools, we sit students behind individual desks, and at the end of the year, we test whether, you are better than your neighbor. There's still the logic of our ways of schooling, the logic of sorting, not the logic of collaboration, of working together. Social emotional skills rising in importance. And then the question of attitudes and values. Now, once again, success in education today is no longer about just learning something, but about developing this kind of inner compass that shows us where to go and how to move. When we ask ourselves, what are the key competences that are at the center of modern education systems these days? I looked around the world in over 60 countries, and we actually came to very similar answers across cultures and contexts. The first is your capacity to imagine, to build something of intrinsic positive worth. That's the obvious distinction from technology. Technology extrapolates from what we know. But to really build genuine new insights is still a very human capacity. But equally important is our capacity to manage tensions and dilemmas. The world is no longer black and white. Navigating ambiguity has been a great fundamental competency. That's something that actually education systems have a hard time. We always want to know the right answer, and we think we have the right answer, but often success is about, finding your way in conflicting viewpoints and ideas. And then, of course, take responsibility. We know a lot of things. We can do a lot of things, but are we able to mobilize our cognitive, our social and emotional resources to actually take responsibility? Very important in the 21st century. What are the implications for world-class education systems? The first is to do with openness. Actually, we're very good in education to teach young people the established wisdom of our times. We transmit what we know to the next generation. We're not so good at actually helping young people question the established wisdom of our times. Being open for the novelty. We know how to learn. What's harder for us is to unlearn and relearn when the context changes. And sometimes that is as important. When the world is changing, sometimes we need new ways of thinking, and sometimes our old ways of thinking are preventing us from engaging with the novelty. Reflection, being able to step back, to see the bigger picture, to detect the forest among the trees. Very hard for us. We get lost in the information streams that come towards us every minute, every second. But seeing the bigger picture, those are fundamental competencies. And then taking action again, mobilizing. Learning has always been a passive experience. We absorb knowledge. Today, that concept of student agency is at the heart of learning. Being able to do something, being able to mobilize, being able to take responsibility, requiring a very, very different learning environment. If you think about learning in the 21st century, the first thing that you'll notice in world-class school systems is that they teach fewer things at greater depths. One of the most surprising things, in a way, Spain is a good example. We teach a lot of things at relatively shallow depths. A lot of things are getting taught because we think, students have only this time in school. We need to teach them everything that they need to know in life. And that logic no longer works. World-class systems teach fewer things at greater depths. They remain true to the disciplines, but they confront students with interdisciplinary settings. Project-based, thematic learning has become very, very important. They focus on things that you can apply in a different context. Learning is meaningful, authentic, something where students can see their own experiences. And then when you talk about social emotional skills or character or values, some things are caught, not taught. As a teacher, people look to you no longer just at what you say, but increasingly about who you are. And that brings me to the next dimension. It's moving from prescription to really the idea of a profession that owns its practice. Now, when you think about world-class school systems, you can see that the public has a great level of trust in teachers as professionals. Teachers have authority as professionals. They invest a lot in preparing those people, and not just in universities. A lot of learning actually happens in schools. If you are a teacher in Shanghai in China, you teach less than half of the hours of a Spanish teacher. But you actually work more than a Spanish teacher. You just spend your time differently. You work with your colleagues to design new instructional practice. You work with parents, you work with individual students. You know your subject, but you also know your students. Collective ownership of practice. Basically, teachers together own their practice, they work on their practice, they make decisions not in accordance of regulation or prescription, but with the ideas of their practice. Something that we are still quite far away from this. Now, when you think about profession, there's three things that we have measured at the OECD. The first has to do with the knowledge of teachers. And when you think about the knowledge of teachers, you think about what they know about their subject. And of course, that's very important. It's the first thing your students will understand, whether you really own your subject. But equally important is to understand how different students learn that subject. And what we often forget is the knowledge about your students. Do you understand, who they are, how they think, how they feel? Do you really know the people in front of you? And that's something in the industrial form of schooling that's often been forgotten. We have tailorized education. We employ a school psychologist or a social worker, and the role of teachers has been very much focused on the delivery of instruction. And when you look at this across countries, you can see a country like Poland that has done really well in strengthening all of those kinds of aspects. The aspect of knowledge, the aspect of professional autonomy, and the aspect of the collaborative culture. In Poland, you can see all of those well developed. In Portugal, still a long way to go on all of these dimensions. Italy is interesting. You can see, actually, teachers can do what they like. Professional autonomy is very strong, but at the same time, the knowledge base and the collaborative culture is still quite weak. My children go to a school in France. Teachers are actually quite well prepared. They have good foundation knowledge, but actually a limited degree of professional autonomy. The system is very heavy, very prescriptive, and a weak collaborative culture. And then last but not least, if you look to Spain also, a lot of way to go on all dimensions. And Spanish people are very social people, but when you look at teachers, how they collaborate, you can see a lot of the collaboration is very informal. Sharing knowledge, exchanging practice. But as you move to the deeper layers of collaboration, observing somebody else's classrooms, working with your fellow teachers on the design of new practices, joint lessons, they're very rare in the Spanish school system. And actually, that's true in many countries. Collaboration in the school, among teachers, among students, among schools, is very, very weak. And why this matters? Because we know from our research that the more teachers teach jointly, the more they observe other teachers' practice, the more they engage in joint activities, the more they take part in collaborative learning, the greater their sense of ownership of professional practice. Being embedded in a strong profession is really important, and that is one of the key drivers of being satisfied with your job. You think, being satisfied with your job has all to do with money, paying teachers well, getting great salaries. But it's not so easy. Spain is actually a good example. Actually, teaching is reasonably financially attractive. That's not the problem. But it's become intellectually less attractive. Teachers are the factory workers, delivering knowledge. They're less embedded in the profession. You can see really here the satisfaction with the work, with the profession, has a lot to do with collective ownership of practice. Even the status of the teaching profession. How do teachers perceived in society is highly predicted by the degree of professionalization. Professional knowledge, professional autonomy, and the collaborative culture. Those are the hallmarks of the 21st century education system. They can be amplified with technology. Technology can be a great source for teachers actually to engage with each other, to learn from and with each other, to establish powerful platforms of learning. In the past, learning was divided into subject areas or academic and vocational education, things like that. Now we have a very compartmentalized school system. The future will be much more integrated, learning across the boundaries of discipline, learning from and with each other, integrating the world of work and the world of learning, Learning is not a place. Learning is an activity that extends through everything that we do. And again, technology will be a powerful bridge between the individual and the learning. What role do schools have in this picture? If you are in the Netherlands or the Czech Republic, you can see the majority of schools actually schools decide on the majority of the decisions. They decide, what they do, how they teach, who they employ, how they employ people. A lot of the responsibility is on individual schools. If you go to the end of the in Greece and Turkey, schools are part of a big machine, but they have a very, very limited discretion. And if you go to, most of the decisions are made at higher levels of government. And if you see, Spain is also an example where the discretion that schools have to shape their own ideas, their own practice, is very, very limited. Most of the practices are decided by the system, not by the people. And again, most high-performing education systems have actually changed that dynamic. They make the actors at the front line. They put students at the center, student agency, teacher agency, and the ability of schools to shape their future as very important ingredients. And last but not least, it's about moving from compliance, from standardization, from conformity in learning, teaching everybody in the same way, having every school look in the same way, to focusing more on ingenuity. We ask teachers about, what do you think about the environment at school? Are you going to be recognized, rewarded for being more innovative? And actually, only about a quarter of teachers say yes to this question. 3/4 of teachers perceive their own school to be a rather innovation-hostile environment. That may not be the truth. Teachers may be able to do a lot of things that they are not aware of. But it's the perceived reality of a system that is heavy, that doesn't give me the room to be truly ingenious in my work, to be recognized and rewarded for innovation. If we cannot change that perception, it's going to be very, very hard to change anything. Very last point, moving from idiosyncratic practices, and if we create a new law every time a government changes, put new things on top of the system, to thinking much more about how the different pieces of an education systems really fit together, with the student at the center and the education system built around this. Our education systems are all designed around the interests and needs of adults. They think about what students should learn, how they want to work. Too little time is spent on the learner at the center and designing the system around the needs of different learners in different systems. When you think about this systemic transformation, how do you change a system, not just an individual school, has a lot to do with how we include those at the front line in the decision. Where we do not engage teachers and school leaders and educators in the design of change, they will never help us with the implementation of change. Just changing things top-down is very, very hard. Where we don't build, the profession into the equation, where we don't build deep professional capacity for change. Change management starts in the school, starts everywhere, at every layer of the system. Leadership is not just about, leadership at the system level. Leadership is about every level. The teacher, the school leader, and distributing this. And then last but not least, looking outwards. Not just looking forwards, but looking outwards to the next teacher, to the next school, to the next education systems. Those systems that are open to the world, open to new ways of thinking, open to transformation are the ones that are advancing, and those systems that are afraid of the differences, that are afraid of looking outwards, that are afraid of looking forward, they're getting stuck in the paradigms of our 20th century. Again, these are just a few drivers, but I think the important thing is that we can change those things. Around the world, we see many successful schools. Right here in Madrid, in Spain, there are many, many successful schools. But we have also learned that we can design better school systems that recognize how different students learn differently and how we can better support them. So to ensure that every student learns at excellent levels. Thank you very much. Gracias.
Thank you, Andreas. Very, very interesting. Love
Hey, what are we going? A taste when the rain came down in the hollow, playing a new game, laughing and running. Hey, hey, skipping on jumping in the misty morning, morning. Our hearts are bumping you. All I got. Going down the old mountain, turns his radio. Skipping in the sunlight, laughing high, the rainbow's one. Sleeping in the sunny. Hold on, what I follow you. My brother, you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Third floor, thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. That was a big round of applause for third floor. Your family is there, guys. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Those of you who are joining us now, please take a seat at the front. There's plenty of space. Thank you. Welcome, Santiago. I can see everything from up here. Okay, we're going to continue with our next keynote speaker and panel. So please take a seat. I would ask for a bit of silence at the front. Thank you. Hello, those standing up. Hola. Yes, I would ask for a bit of silence, and those who want to join us, please take a seat. We're going to talk about the International Baccalaureate. As you may know, it has been around for over 50 years, and it would seem that the steady growth in the number of schools continues to show the relevance of the IB philosophy. It's a philosophy grounded in developing critical thinking and in learning how to learn. Our next keynote speaker is the 7th Director General of the International Baccalaureate, a post she holds since January 2014. And she said, and I quote, "The IB is a 4.0 education in a 1.0 world." And she adds, "The IB prepares the student to be the creators of the algorithm rather than the consumers, so not to be subjects without thinking." She is passionate about educators worldwide who develop students worldwide to create change. When asked what advice she would give to teachers and head of departments, she said, and I quote, "To spark that child, every moment with that child matters. A kind word said by a teacher can change a student's life." Wow. Please, let's welcome Dr. Siva Kumani. Welcome. You okay?
It's great to follow Andrea Schleicher and a Van Morrison song, Brown Eyed Girl. I'm definitely a brown-eyed girl. And hola, amigos. There's no other visual input for you except my face, so really, I'd like you to focus on my words. We tend to spend a lot of time on what's not working in education. So I thought I would spend some time with you today to talk about what is working. Based on our experience, you can be assured this will work now, this works now, and will work in the foreseeable future. I come to you to share the full experience of the IB organization over 5 decades. I'm not that old, I haven't been with them that long, but this is the experience that we have over the 5 decades as we implemented our philosophy of education in over 150 countries, in over 6,000 programs, and we listened to the impact of this education on generation of IB students, teachers, and heads of school who made and make this learning come alive every day. Let's now talk about the world of tomorrow, about which you have heard a lot through this wonderful Congress. Yes, some facts are real. There is more information in the world than this human mind can handle. Each day, more of this information is more and more accessible to more and more people in this world on smaller and cheaper devices. There are also other facts that matter to us as educators, developing our next wave of humanity. Besides the unending tsunami of information from all around the world, yes, the fourth industrial revolution is upon us. The Internet of Things that we as adults have created enables things to talk to other things, creating new knowledge, new things, and new unimaginable possibilities now. This is manifest in our everyday lives now. But perhaps, just perhaps, instead of being daunted, we as educators should think through the possibilities that this world of unbelievable connectedness, of ideas, of people, of access to knowledge offers children ripe with imagination, offers children with skills to boldly head into this change, and those with the ability to rise from failure and start again. These are the kind of young people we in the IB endeavor to develop with the help of all of our schools all around this world. This is why I am able to stand before you to talk to you about what's working in education. Believing that education is the most fundamental of rights, the IB continually revises its educational philosophy and curricula and thinking on a very regular basis, to think through what is relevant for the student, what is pertinent for young people today, what is the purpose of education today, and what is our belief about a teacher, a student, and the learning environment today. For the past 50 years, we have believed that learning is lifelong, that the learner needs to be given a set of skills and knowledge, necessary content to meet the educational standards of not only their country, but of international standards. So yeah, academically rigorous? Yes, we are. But beyond that already hard task of meeting international standards, we believe that education is about developing our next wave of humanity. Our next wave of humanity that will change the world for the better. We want our learners, our young, your young, to think critically every day, to care about the world's problems, engage with problems that matter to them at home, and work with others to solve them, to be disciplined in their thinking and globally minded in their outlook. This is not a small ask that we make of our IB students, expecting all students to make change knowledgeably. Here is what teachers around the world achieve in 3 of our programs. In our primary program, which is for the 3 to 12-year-olds, 12-year-olds in our primary program create a final exhibition. This is a culmination of their project, a project that involves students working collaboratively to conduct in-depth inquiry into real-life issues or problems. To do so, they have to plan. They have to decide upon a problem that matters to them. They have to research a potential solution, discussing it with their peers and the adults in their world, and then design solutions. They have to explain this process at the exhibition to any adult or any peer that visits. This is powerful learning for ages 3 to 12. Don't you agree? This happens all around our IB World schools in all types, well-resourced, under-resourced, and regardless of the parents' income. In my visits around the IB world, I have seen 12-year-olds changing their world by following this process of inquiry. I've seen 9-year-olds change their school lunches because they felt there was no healthy options. There were no healthy options. I've seen little girls and boys address bullying in schools, and so much more. These are independent thinkers developing metadata for learning and owning their learning. We are creating learners who know how to learn, reflect about themselves, both as learners and their learning process, and know how to apply real-world knowledge to real-world problems. This vocabulary of learning, this process of taking content and applying it to serve the world, is what we believe teachers can skillfully engineer in classrooms. That the role of the teacher and the school is to enable children to understand the learning process, to be innovators of pedagogy, create transparency about what it takes to get to the end of the project, backward plan like you and I would do, and then at the end of the project reflect on what they did, just like you and I would do. And they should also reflect on what they could have done better if they had more time, or what they would change. The idea here is to enjoy the journey of learning as a process, rather than be disabled by what marks you will get. So our young people, 3 to 12-year-olds, are doing what adults would call project management, self-assessment, and determining investments of their time. Does this sound unreal? You don't have to believe me. If you'd like to see the evidence for yourself, walk into any one of the PYP schools right here in Madrid or anywhere in the world and talk to any of the young ones. They are far better at explaining this than I am. In our middle year program for 11 to 16-year-olds, we also ask students to create a personal project or a passion project at the end of their interdisciplinary study. The MYP Personal Project is a student-centered and age-appropriate practical exploration in which students consolidate their learning throughout this program. This long-term project is designed as an independent learning experience for the students. The personal project assesses students' skills for self-management, research, communication, critical and creative thinking, and collaboration. Students around the world using this process have created so many social entrepreneurial projects, and I'll give you a few examples. A young lady in New York has started her own company at 16 years of age through her personal project. She created a cosmetic company that uses recycled coffee grounds. Another young student from Afghanistan created 3D printed foldable emergency shelters for refugees made of durable and recyclable high-density polyethylene. This was to create low-cost, sustainable solutions for refugees in his country. Another young student used his robotic skills to 3D print an affordable and functional artificial hand that cost less than $150. The project began in 6th grade, so he must have been all of 11 or 12. And this student's goal was to improve the lives of amputees with limited resources, particularly refugees in developing countries. These three are a mere sample of thousands of inspiring and exciting examples of our young students creating solutions for the issues in the world we now live in. In the diploma program for our 16 to 19-year-olds who are sought after by universities around the world, including here in Spain, because they're so well prepared, we ask these students to do a lot. We require the study of 6 subjects in literature and language, humanities, mathematics, sciences, and arts, including the acquisition of a second language. But wait, not just this. In addition, students have to do an IB core, the theory of knowledge, which is called Talk Lovingly, to understand how we acquire knowledge. How do we know what we know, and why do we think what we know is valid? We ask them to do a course called Creativity, Action, and Service to change a bit of their world. It's easy to talk about change, it's hard to do it. So we want them to actually experience changing a bit of their world. And finally, we ask them to do an extended essay, which is an independent piece of research ending in a 4,000-word essay that they have to cite just like you would in an academic paper. In this core, again, we intend to and aim to provide the student a chance to explore their personal passions. So we continue this tradition of engaging the student in their learning and giving meaning to their learning from the exhibition that I talked about for 3 to 12-year-olds, the personal project for the 11 to 16-year-olds, and the extended essay and the core for the 16 to 19-year-olds. So let me shift to the theme of this Congress. So how does all of our work relate to the student of today entering into the brave new world of algorithms and internet and its exponential derivatives, the end state of which none of us can predict? Our theory of change is quite simple. If we create better and skilled learners who are supported by adults, adults who care about the passions of both the minds and the souls in their care, our young can face any world. We create learning environments in schools that support this very important humanistic development of our next generation. We maintain high academic and high humanistic standards with a mission to build a collective around the world, a collective of students and teachers that want to create a better world wherever they are. And it works. We believe in humanity, and we find that there are so many educators around the world that are inspired by and inspired to educate our young in this way to develop our next wave of humanity. Again, our theory of change is quite simple. Young learners developed with a sense of what they can do, who learn how to make change happen by using their mind, their skills, and their values, will survive in any world. Professor Yuval Harari, the well-known best-selling author, have many of you read his books? Right. Says in his third book, 21 Lessons for 21st Century, in the chapter of education, and I quote him, "As strangeness becomes the new normal, your past experiences, as well as the past experiences of the whole of humanity, will become less reliable guides. Humans as individuals and humankind as a whole will increasingly have to deal with things nobody ever encountered before, such as super-intelligent machines, engineered bodies, algorithms that can manipulate your emotions with uncanny precision, rapid man-made climate cataclysms, and the need to change your profession every decade. To survive and flourish in such a world, you will need a lot of mental flexibility and a great reserves of emotional balance. You will have to repeatedly let go of some of what you know best and learn to feel at home with the unknown. Unfortunately, teaching kids to embrace the unknown while maintaining their mental balance is far more difficult than teaching them an equation in physics or the cause of the First World War," unquote. We agree, teaching content is easy. But this is exactly why we put our faith in IB teachers. We ask teachers to teach both the content needed to have an educated conversation about problems and solutions, but we insist that the learning culture also include dialogue, deliberation, discussion, and knowledge formation of the young human in our hands. As Andreas said, we expect high-level knowledge workers as our teachers with the freedom to educate, not disseminate content, or be data points for all of us as adults of the achievement of their students. And that schools teach children self-confidence through competent completion of higher-level tasks. Critical thinking that allows students to build and own their knowledge by doing original investigations through an inquiry approach at all levels. We advocate that all children will need to form questions and solutions to problems that matter. This is what we believe should happen in IB classrooms every day. We in the IB, therefore, take our teaching community very seriously and see our role as a service to them. So we keep track of the changes of world of education and bring them to all our teachers through professional development. We keep up with what CEOs are saying, what university professors are saying, and how the world needs are changing, in what needs in the workforce are of tomorrow, and we bring that into our programs. This way, we prepare students anywhere to be prepared for the world at large and for any change at large. So how does the IB education meet the skills and demands of today and tomorrow? Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum, in his commentary on the Fourth Industrial Revolution, writes, and I quote, "We stand on the brink of a technological revolution that will fundamentally alter the way we live, work, and relate to one another. In its scale, scope, and complexity, the transformation will be unlike anything humankind has experienced before. We do not yet know just how it will unfold, but one thing is clear. The response to it must be integrated and comprehensive, involving all stakeholders of the global polity, from the public and private sectors to academia and civil society," end quote. It is into such a world that we are launching our students. We need to think through how they will be able to handle the complexity, handle the demands of a world where computers talk to each other, where data sets are already at play in shaping both human behavior and action, and where many jobs we know today will be better and more cheaply done by robots. In this world, we are preparing students with all the necessary skills needed for their uncertain future. In this new world, where computer algorithms will be king, we prepare our students to be thinking critically, to be capable of creating the algorithms rather than being passive recipients of them. In this world, where the formation of the question is as important as the solution, we prepare students all the way from ages 3 to 19 to ask good questions often and to answer them by applying appropriate knowledge while considering all the implications and taking different perspectives of the good and the harm that can be done. In this world, we ask our students to push beyond what they know, what their parents know, what their teachers know, and we prepare them to be confident but respectful risk takers in questioning the status quo. In our world, where our students will create things that don't exist today, we ask students to condition themselves to plan, design, and make change creatively while reflecting on the implications of that which they design or create as they make the world a better through their own imagination. To quote from a recent research report, quote, "Many experts in artificial intelligence argue that humans' comparative advantage lies predominantly in non-cognitive skills of social intelligence and creativity," unquote. These are some of the ways that we as educators can prepare students for a future which requires them to habitually think differently and to confidently use their brain power for the upcoming and most difficult of our next evolution of our human endeavor as Homo sapiens. In this world, we need to be mindful of what we want to preserve about the human touch, the mind, the soul. And those are the kind of students we prepare every day all over the world with the help of very engaged educators who believe the same. Such a well-prepared students will meet tomorrow's VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous world head-on. Let us not run from this, but let's prepare to own this new world. Let me end by starting with what I started. We tend to spend a lot of time on what's not working in education. I hope you think this time with you today to talk about what is working and will continue to work in our future gives you much hope of the immense possibilities ahead for learners of all ages. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kumari. I'm going to ask you to join us on the second chair at the far end. Thank you for this enlightening and inspiring presentation and to give us a glimpse of what's actually working inside the IBA classrooms. We're going to continue with the chat. I asked Dr. Kumari to join us for a debate, and she's going to be joined by a panel and by a moderator. Our moderator is Berta González de Vega, journalist and education expert at El Mundo. Come on. I was going to mention them all and then join them. But then we have Polly Arkers, co-founder of Sky School, and she's also IB diploma alumnus. Welcome. Polly. Then we have Peter Murphy, director of Vienna International School and IB School. Welcome, Peter. And finally, we have Javier Imbroda, Regional Minister of Education in Andalusia in Spain. Javier. And now let's give them all a round of applause. Thank you for being here. Berta, all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to be quite fast since we don't have much time. And I'm going to start with Polly. Polly works with refugee with her enterprise. And how important was IB to choose that particular career? How important is that IB places so much time in community service and so on?
I think it was hugely important for me. in shaping my future career and life choices. And I should mention that I attended a school called UWC Atlantic College, which was one of the first schools to, well, it was the first school to actually adopt the full IB instead of its own national program. And so we had a really robust kind of commitment to community service. And obviously that's one of the things, as Siva was saying, that sits at the core of the IB. And so over 2 years, I spent 2 afternoons every week doing community service. And I think that it really shaped me as a person, and it really made me a better person. And one thing that I remember very clearly, one thing that I did was to visit an elderly woman in the village nearby the school. And I would help her with her shopping. Sometimes we would just stay at home and watch television. And in the beginning I thought, well, you know, what am I really doing? I'm not really doing that much. Am I really helping that much? But a few weeks in, she said to me, you know, it's so great that you are coming every week because actually you're the only person that I see. And then she went on to say that she only saw, her family only came to visit her every 6 months, and so she really was quite lonely and isolated, and I hadn't really realized the extent of that. And I think that that was the first time that I felt as if I had made an impact on another person. And so that experience really kind of showed me that I could have an impact, that I could do something, even in a small way, and it also committed me to making more of an impact in the lives of others, and not just kind of focusing on my own life, but trying to commit myself to help others, and ultimately kind of led me to where I am today, working both kind of in education, which was also something that was inspired by my own educational experience, and with young people who are refugees.
And maybe you wouldn't have done that if it wasn't a requirement of the curriculum, isn't it?
Exactly. It was something that was very much at the core of the entire curriculum, of the entire experience, of the entire ethos of the IB, and so it was hugely important.
Thank you, Polly. And I want to ask Peter, he's been an educator in UK, in Germany. Now he runs a school in Vienna with children from how many nationalities, Peter?
111 nationalities, 78 first languages, a very diverse community.
Yeah. Do you think this, because, I mean, IB has been so successful around the world, you have more and more petitions of high schools to become an IB curriculum school. Do you think there is some people, educators, see the IB curriculum like kind of a safeguard against continuous political changes in national curriculums, you know,
I can speak from a very personal perspective as somebody who spent the first 14 years of my professional life teaching in a UK environment. I finished in a quite senior position, and one of the challenges that I faced was constant political intervention in terms of the work that we were expected to do as a school. One of the things that made the International Baccalaureate such an attractive proposition for me was to come into an educational framework that was not governed by single national perspectives, but was taking the best of good practice from around the world and providing great opportunities for young people to find themselves, to discover their passions, to experience a broad range of curricular disciplines that would set them up well for the future. And there's a stable nature to the way the IB programs have developed in terms of my experience. So the change that we affect is change that's driven by educators who engage with the International Baccalaureate and sit down together in terms of shaping how programs might develop.
And how's the feedback you get from universities all over the world with your students?
So with children coming from many, many countries around the world, it's really important that their opportunities to go on and study are as open as possible. The IB is currently recognized, I think, in 157 countries around the world as a tertiary entry qualification. So students know that regardless of where they're actually studying the International Baccalaureate, possibilities are open to them to take their studies and pursue them further wherever they choose around the world.
So I'm going to ask Javier, and I'm going to ask him in Spanish, and I'll translate afterwards. Javier Imbroda, que es el consejero de Educación de la Junta de Andalucía, ha hecho una apuesta muy decidida por el bachillerato internacional. En Andalucía había un bachillerato internacional público, hay varios privados, pero había uno público y ha decidido extenderlo al menos a todas las provincias de Andalucía. Y le quiero preguntar que con esas tasas de fracaso escolar que hay en Andalucía, ¿cómo se ha atrevido a apostar por algo que luego preguntaré a Siva, pero que a la doctora Siva, que la gente sigue viendo con prejuicios de elitista, ¿no? I'm asking Javier that how come that he's pushing so hard for the IB curriculum in Andalucía that sadly it was very well known because of its dropout rates in the education system. So Javier, you can tell in Spanish and I'll translate.
Okay, thank you very much, Berta. A ver, yo quisiera hacer una breve introducción antes de entrar en el IB program. Quería hacer, llevo 8 meses como consejero de Educación y Deporte y vengo con 3 ideas fundamentales. 3. La primera, vengo con la sana intención de despolitizar la educación.
Okay, I'll translate first sentence. He has 3 powerful ideas in education, and the first one is to take politics out of education.
La educación ha sido un instrumento político demasiado utilizado. Entonces yo quiero debatir ideas, no quiero debatir ideologías.
He wants to debate about ideas, not ideology.
La segunda cuestión es ¿qué podemos hacer entre todos para que nuestros niños y jóvenes estén lo mejor formados posible en este mundo global?
And the third one is what can we do among everyone to get our children in Andalucía, to be really well prepared to compete around the world?
Y la última cuestión es ¿qué podemos hacer entre todos para que nuestros docentes estén lo mejor formados posible?
And last one, how can we get our teachers to be really well prepared to teach children the skills and learnings that they need now?
Uno de los grandes desafíos, en mi opinión, en la educación, uno de los grandes desafíos que tenemos, que yo creo que nos estamos planteando en todos sitios en estos momentos, es que el tiempo de transferir conocimiento e información se ha terminado.
The time to just give content, as Dr. Siva was saying, is finished and we need more.
Ahora necesitamos descubrir el talento de nuestros jóvenes y que puedan desarrollar sus capacidades.
We need to find out about our children's talents and to give them the capacity to get to their full potential.
4 líneas en educación y deporte que estamos desarrollando en Andalucía. La primera, en la máxima atención especial para nosotros son nuestros alumnos más vulnerables.
Their top priority is in Andalucía is the most vulnerable students that they quite a lot.
Las nuevas tecnologías han acelerado todos los cambios.
New technologies have changed everything.
Pero también aceleran las brechas sociales.
But they aren't closing the gap among social classes.
En educación es donde nacen, en las desigualdades educativas, es donde nacen las desigualdades sociales.
in education, in the gaps in education is where social inequalities are born.
La segunda cuestión es una apuesta, una gran apuesta por la formación profesional.
And there is another big hope in having a good skills program that I guess IB also have an skills program.
Y todo eso es perfectamente compatible con implantar un programa como el Bachillerato Internacional.
And finally, he says that all of this is perfectly compatible with pushing for the IB in Andalucía.
Solamente un centro público en Andalucía desde el año 89.
In Andalucía, we only had one public high school with IB, the Martínez Montañés in Sevilla, since 1989.
A partir del próximo curso vamos a tener 7 centros públicos más.
From 2020 to 2021, we are going to have, Andalucía is going to have 7 more public high schools.
Y vamos a hacer algunas pruebas pilotos.
With IB.
Pruebas pilotos en formación profesional y también en zonas desfavorecidas.
And they are going to use it as a pilot program also with the skills and in a very impoverished, very poor neighborhoods around Andalucía. And let me ask Javier Siva, is there anything like what Andalucía is trying to do around the world with public high schools and IB in not so affluent parts of the world?
Yeah. So I think first I need to mention, if it's not clear, that we're a not-for-profit. So we have no intention of wanting to become the state system ever. I think we have a lot of examples around the world where the IB is being put into public schools. We have an experiment going on in Chicago, in the underserved parts of that city, where the mayor decided that he wanted to rise above the disengagement of students and all of that. And research shows that the IB had an effect. Research not done by us, but done by Chicago Consortium of Research. We're also seeing around the world an interest, and thanks to independent schools like Vienna International School and UWCs around the world who've shown that this works. What, for us as an IB, as a not-for-profit, motivates us is that the belief that you can't make change with just a few people in the world. And change should be accessible, and this kind of education should be accessible for everyone. So we have, we are working on a project in Japan to bring IB to public schools in remote parts of Japan. We don't think of Japan as having underserved students, but they do. We're working with Korea. In fact, I'm going there in November to put it in public schools to give a different version of Korean education, because Korea is obviously known for its education. We are in Peru, where the past president of Peru wanted the IB to be in 13 provinces. As an example in each of the provinces. So we have, I think, about 12 or 13 schools there now. And we have so many of these examples. And we have one in Kent, UK, where we are trying to, that disengagement of students, which comes from a belief that there are no opportunities to re-engage those students. And I think it'll be great to see, if we work with your minister, that there is a public and a private partnership so that the whole boat is lifted.
I see. And how is the feedback, Javier, from the teacher community in Andalucía? ¿Cómo está siendo la respuesta de la comunidad educativa?
Ha sido fantástica. Teníamos ciertas reticencias, ¿no? Porque después de casi 40 años sin esta apuesta, teníamos nuestras dudas. Pero ha sido fantástica. Más de 40 proyectos nos han presentado y estamos muy contentos, no solo por los 7 que van a desarrollar el Bachillerato Internacional, sino por los otros 30 y tantos que se han quedado como en una lista de espera, y lo que procuramos es que cada lugar sirva como de faro, de inspiración para el resto de los centros educativos.
And let me ask Polly about how tight the alumni community is around the world, the IB. How is it? Do you keep in touch and you get to know another IB alumni, or how is it works?
So I think for a lot of us, our main allegiance is to our schools, because those are the places in which we've kind of have relationships with teachers and with other students. And so a lot of schools do have very kind of tight alumni networks. But I also think that, you know, when I meet a lot of IB alumni out in the world, and there is definitely a sense of kind of a common value system. A common sense that when you meet someone, you know that they will be kind of compassionate, caring, kind of a bit like the IB learner profile come to life in many ways. And so I think that there is kind of a bond between us, and it's great to see so many kind of, the IB has increased its spread over the last kind of 10 years, and so I meet more and more IB alumni in everyday life, which is fantastic.
And let me ask Peter, we've already talked about how many nationalities you have at your school, and how the IB, or maybe SIVA, how the IB makes compatible, you know, this push for national and tribal identities with, you know, a more international focus.
Can I connect perhaps first of all into the earlier conversation?
Yeah.
There are two things that I'd like to say. We talk about the IB sometimes as though it's one program, and it's a program for 16 to 19-year-olds. The reality is the International Baccalaureate offers programs for children aged between 3 and 19.
Yeah.
And in the school that I lead, we have children who do the first program in their primary school education from 3 till 11. We have children do the second program from 11 to 16, and then they do the diploma, which is very often the program that we talk about as the DP, the diploma program, the IB. The second point that I want to make, and this speaks to the notion of challenging disenfranchised young people who look at school and say, you know, I can't wait till I reach the age of 15 or 16 to get out of school because school is irrelevant. It feels irrelevant to me. It's not providing me with learning opportunities that I can connect with. I see no sense of being able to use what I've gained as an experience further, and therefore, you know, give me an opportunity to get out as quickly as I can. The beauty of the International Baccalaureate programs is that they provide opportunities for the full period of time that the young people are in school to explore a breadth of learning, so to have the time to find themselves. And so a child who is in a program that's giving them lots of opportunity for that journey of discovery is much more likely to want to stay in school, because the school is providing a place that they can go through that journey of discovery. Where are the challenges? The challenges are for us as teachers to realize that we live in a world where our job is to no longer stand at the front and be in control of everything, but to stand maybe in the center and to change the nature of the dynamics of how the learning is actually happening.
And how is the training of the teachers with the IB? For example, I would like you to explain to the audience if Andalusia now has these new projects, how the IB is gonna have all these teachers ready to teach the IB.
Sure, but I think I want to address your previous question about nationality versus. We strongly want the child to belong first to their family and to their country. I think all of us need to lay down, particularly in this information world, who you are as a person and what are your values. And those come first from the family, and then the school, and then the country. And then you need to belong to this international polity, if you will. And internationally, I think all of us have some human values that are common regardless of where we're from. So that's how we stay connected. But we do not want the child to lose their local identity at all. Okay. Because there's no such thing as being global without being local. Second to the address of teacher professional development, it's a long journey. We take a long time before a school becomes an IB school. And the commitment of the head of the school or the head of the system is important to give teachers the time to move from the way they are known to be teaching in a particular system and to come to this new way of teaching where they let go of the content and think of the child and how are they going to engineer this classroom where, as Peter said, the child is engaged in owning their language and is owning their knowledge and applying their knowledge. So we offer what are called professional development courses. And we have courses, as Peter said, specific to the 3 programs, because inquiry is a very important aspect of how you engage the child in dealing with the content and their own values. So that's a tough thing. And so we spend a lot of time by we don't go out, we don't have staff that do these professional development. What we do is take our community to teach our community. Because that happens at a teacher level, and that's how the solutions sustain themselves, because teachers can see that other teachers are doing it.
Okay, so I'm sad to say that we finished. Thank you very much for the talk. Thank you to you all. Yes.
Hey, what are we gonna days when the rain came down in the hollow, playing a new game, laughing and running, hey, hey, skipping on a jumping, and the mess in my heart and forward, our hearts are thumping you, where I go. Share my heart where I go. And whatever happened to saying so going down the old man with a transistor radio, skipping in the sunlight, laughing high the rainbow's war, sipping out of sunny air. Alone, the one I'm far with you.
Thank you very much. 3rd floor. Thank you. Come in and join us. We're going to continue with the program. And our next keynote speaker is actually a very good friend of Andrea Steicher, who was our first keynote speaker this morning. So if you liked his talk, our next speaker, Anthony, says in a way he's going to take over from what Andrea said, so it's already quite promising. He, in his Twitter profile, says, Vice President of Education at Microsoft, dedicated to empowering education and inspiring students all over the world. He also says, educators are my heroes. No wonder, because his job is to travel around on a journey and dedicating most of his life to the impact and power technology is going to have to transform the opportunities for students. In his role, leading the worldwide execution of Microsoft's vision for education, he aims to transform the way we learn with the support of the best technology to help build critical skills for the modern global workplace. And he's here to talk to us about it. So please, let's welcome Anthony Salcito. Anthony, welcome.
Thank you.
All yours.
Wow, it's great to be here, both here in Spain, but also here in enlightED. I'm excited to have this conversation. I know it will be quick, but I'm lucky that I can build off of the great speeches and presenters that have come before me. I know one of the times I go to a lot of these conferences around the world, we say a lot of the same thing, which sometimes is frustrating, because it's clear that we understand the issues. The world has changed, the dynamics are changed, but I'm hopeful going to try to shift mindset on a number of things. I'll start with the subtitle of today's conference, Reinventing Education in a Digital World. That's scary. Reinvention is scary. What does that mean to an educator or a school leader or a system or a parent, certainly a student? The dynamics of change starts with recognizing a simple concept. Learning, how all of us learn, how certainly our students learn has fundamentally and forever changed. How we use information, where do we get it, what exists, how do we connect, collaborate, how we participate in the world has changed. The workplace we're preparing students for has changed. So when we think about reinventing education, recognize the two hardest things have already been changed for us. The way in which we learn and the world in which we're preparing students for. So de-stress the reinvention as it relates to what it means for schools and shift on the reality that's already changing for your students. We know the Industrial Revolution is here, and many of us already in this conference have shared that. The thing to note, though, this is a journey towards humanity. Thinking about the dynamics here requires a focus on education. In each of these segments, the need for quality teachers, integrated and innovative pedagogy, the value of graduates to fuel economies, and the dependencies for students in the economy has grown through this transformation that exists everywhere around the world and in every industry. This is all going to change when we change mindset. And I've been around the world, and I've been to tons of schools and universities around the world. Until we change our mindset on the approach, we're not going to change the opportunity that we have in front of us. And we're not going to maximize the potential for technology to unleash the greatness in every student. Now, mindset is true for every phase. If you want to build a data-driven organization, you're not going to do that without establishing a data-driven culture. You could spend lots of times on technology plans, building plans, acquisition plans, and think about the documentation, the meetings, etc. How many meetings, how many plans, how many documents do we have on changing the culture, changing the mindset in the organization? For those of you who are educators, we can do a quick exercise. You can close your eyes, you can think of something, keep your mind clear. I'm going to say a few words. Get a sense of how you react when I say them. Okay? So everyone ready? Your students are learning without you. Okay? Now this is the mindset moment. Do you feel good about that statement? No. Most teachers, most educators around the world don't like that statement. Oh my God, what does this mean? My students are learning without me. What does that mean? If I said, your students are reading without you, they're studying without you, they're writing without you, they're collaborating without you, they're playing without you, you're okay, that doesn't feel so scary. You can even feel yourself detensed when I say those words. But students are learning without me. Why does that change? The reality is the fact that students are learning without you makes you a better educator. It makes you more empowered to shift the boundaries of your learning and potential. We've got to shift our mindset constantly and rethink the way in which we feel and recognize that teachers are afraid and often feel displaced. The world of work requires new capabilities, and the role of an educator in human history has never been more needed. Because displacement, based on the trends that are happening around the workplace, is real. And it requires us to bring urgency to reskilling and upskilling and preparing the future generation of students. This is not a technology transformation. I will be the technology representative on the stage who says this clearly and definitively. This is not about technology. I will assure you technology is going to continue to innovate regardless of how we transform. It's going to make things easier. It's going to make things faster, cheaper for schools. We're not going to reach the potential that we have to transform education across the world until we recognize it's about people. It's about unleashing, in a purposeful way, the talent of students. It's about empowering educators to be heroes, to be respected as heroes in our society, and to recognize their role is valued. Now, it starts with people. We've got to bring a hacking culture to drive change. This is important. As leaders, as you think about reinvention starts with discovery. It starts with being bold. It starts with changing the status quo. Bring that culture into your schools, into your classrooms, into the plan as you go forward. Now, this is about people. This is about mindset. But I also know that I want to talk about technology. That's what I was asked to do, to talk about the role of digital in this world. And certainly, the recognition that technology can accelerate change is real. I'm not going to debate that for sure. I would just say that we're limiting technology because we don't put people first. But let's talk a little bit about technology. Why is this important? The world has changed. We know that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the world has changed. But the way in which the world has changed with technology is important. Data. The power and availability of data is changing and driving this transformation. It's the area that most schools are doing, trying to do, doing badly, aspiring to change. A couple of exercises on data. There's lots of it in schools, but not enough of it. We have lots stored, but no one knows where it is. There's lots of big data estates and lots of data across disparate systems. The simplest thing that I like to do with data, and I get a chance to see this when I visit schools, when I often get a chance to visit the first day of schools. We're often in schools the first day of education. I get a chance to see students meeting their teacher for the first time. Think about your own children when they meet their teacher for the first time. The teacher knows very little about your students, your children. They know the name, maybe the grade history before. Think about the last day of school when they're saying tearful goodbyes to those kids. And then think about it repeating again the next grade year. So we have data. Data is collected. It's put in graphs and charts and spreadsheets, etc. But the real foundation for data is not carried from one teacher to the next. We're not building a continuum of insight to drive change. We're not preparing educators to drive instruction in the proper way. We've got to think differently about how we use data and shift the data-driven culture. A phrase that's commonly used is data is the new oil. This is very, very true today. Data is a commodity. It's a precious resource in every culture, in every company, and certainly in every education institution. Like oil, it needs to be refined to fuel, to drive change. You need to refine its use in the classroom. Like oil, if it gets out, if it's leaking, if it spills, it's bad. So you've got to make sure data is safe, protected, secure, that you've got the right ethical use of data in the classroom. But when we do this, and we have a new way of changing the way data can fuel learning, you can change outcomes. Now, data is connected to a convergence that's happening in technology. Technology has been in classrooms since I started on my journey in Microsoft, and certainly before that. But it's the convergence of big data and data availability powered by the advancements in AI and the availability of cloud that's changing everything and requires us to think differently about using data to drive insight, using data to predict where we need to go, what information that an educator or a learner is going to need. And this convergence is really part of 5 key waves that are changing everything. Now, the rise of AI, and many people feel like AI is a scary element because of its impact on job displacement. Many of you probably say, well, AI is great, but it's also bad because there's going to be a lot of people out of work. There's probably many, many examples in human history of technology shifting people out of work. The reality is, in all that case, technology sparks new innovation, new opportunities for jobs and job creation. Many of the jobs that are most growing today, we didn't know existed 5 or 6 years ago. That's going to continue to take place. The shift with this continuum, though, that's worse and more scary is not the impact on job displacement. It's the reality of talent gaps that exist. Think about all these continuums. Artificial intelligence, lots of students are studying and interested. Fewer are studying Internet of Things. Even fewer understand how to program in the dimensions of augmented and virtual reality. Fewer understand blockchain. And even fewer are studying quantum computing. These are drivers to fuel innovation, to change economies, certainly to shift workplace. But innovation will be stalled without the talent to fuel these areas. Certainly, as we think about the presence of technology and the immersion of technology, there's lots we can do. But we need to think about the purposefulness of technology to change. And I'm going to show a quick video talking about probably the least known of those things. Most of you probably know, okay, I know a little bit about blockchain, and I know a little bit about artificial intelligence and Internet of Things, but not quantum computing, I'm not sure about. Quantum computing has the potential to change the world, and we need to unleash the potential it has in our classrooms. So learn a little bit more about quantum computing and what's happening.
Houston, we see you. We have a go. Over.
When we talk about quantum computing, it's a completely different game.
Quantum computing will enable us to solve problems that currently take longer than the lifetime of the universe in seconds, hours, or days.
We completely reconceive the space in which we do computation.
Quantum computing is like going from crawling to going to a different planet. It's different.
It's only natural that we would want to use the world's most powerful device to combat the world's most challenging problems.
We can attack global warming.
Security,
What are the boundaries of machine learning?
fighting diseases. The possibilities of quantum computers are endless. Microsoft has the best and the brightest working on this problem.
It's really happening. Progress is very fast, and we're building a quantum computer.
What the world wants to know is what happens when we turn the machine on.
What problems will be solvable with a computer that computes in a billion parallel universes at the same time?
It's real, and it's coming. Certainly, we're going to have an opportunity to change the world and solve some of the challenges. Student voice on climate change is starting to bubble. And tools like quantum computing is going to help arm students with the capabilities they're going to need. That's why the urgency on driving change is real. Artificial intelligence is changing the world we live, but it's actually making us more human, making technology understand us, making it easier for us to communicate, overcome accessibility challenges, bringing the spectrum across our classrooms. I'm going to share an example of artificial intelligence that often may seem scary and maybe in fundamental, the way in which it's described, artificial, to give a practical example of how artificial intelligence is really changing and really applying to the world of education, the world of learning, the world of our planet. The study of snow leopards is taking place around the world. There's an organization called Snow Leopard Trust where Microsoft has been working with to solve a fundamental challenge that they've been having with regards to data insight and collection on the habitats and the environments of snow leopards. There's roughly about a 5,000 population of existing snow leopards left on the planet, mostly in Central Asia. Now, the snow leopards are hard. They're fast animals. They're very good at hiding and using their environment to their advantage. So it's very, very difficult for the scientists to study. They set up cameras twice a year to collect images. These are cameras that you would find in a traffic stop, et cetera. As motion happens, they take photos. And sometimes you get a nice front, a curious snow leopard looking at the camera. Sometimes they're just fleeing away, et cetera. But what ends up happening is hundreds of thousands of photos in a week or so get consumed by this camera setup, and they would do these once every quarter or so, once or twice a year. And the challenge for scientists is going through these photos. Sometimes the cameras are picking up animals, four-legged animals, maybe similar skeletal structure to a snow leopard, but not useful for researchers. Oftentimes, it's images like this, where there's no data to be found. Sometimes there is a picture that may be an image that doesn't have any useful information to a researcher, but if you really look, you can find the snow leopard hiding in the picture. In some cases, you go through, I see a tail leaving the screen. Some cases here, the snow leopard is looking right at us, and we may have missed it. Now, as I go through these images, think back to the input I said on data for schools. This is what goes on in classrooms. We may be seeing a student failing, looking right at us, but we don't have the data, the time, the insight to fix it. Some cases, the data is fuzzy. Sometimes the data is fleeting or dark. But one is true, is there's a lot of it. So imagine this potential where we're collecting information, we're not connecting enough of it. It's consumed across things that are easy and hard to solve for educators. We've got to use technology like AI, like we're doing for these scientists, to detect snow leopards within seconds, versus tools that took weeks and months of hundreds of people to dissect thousands and hundreds of thousands of images. We can use advanced technologies to help learners, to help provide insight, to enable educators to do what they do, not to replace a teacher, but to enable a teacher to use technology as a tool for insight and understanding. This is the way in which we need to apply the world of learning into our classrooms. This is the way technology steps up to enable the talent of students to face with energy and confidence some of the most important challenges that we face on the planet. That's what this is about. It's not about reinventing education. It's about equipping students to embrace the change that's happening on the planet. And technology, when it's properly used, can be a tool. Now, we just published a course this week, AI Business School for Education. This is a course that's available for free, which includes educators from around the world. And this is perfect for leaders who are building an AI strategy, for educators, even for students who want to understand AI's implication on their future. And it's produced with support of great education leaders who are applying AI actively in their schools today. So I just put this up just as a resource and certainly can share more. All of this for us is about nurturing talent. As an employer, our innovation path to fuel technology is dependent on people. The companies that we serve, the partners that we work with, have the same challenge. Now, the good news is, as someone who travels around the world, this is the least part of the challenge. I will tell you, I've learned two things in my world of education. I learn everything. I learn lots of things every day. Two things that are not changed from the day I started working in education till today is teachers are great, and they're not the issue. In any country, every culture, we may sometimes blame teachers. It's not them. And don't underestimate the power of students to raise your expectation, to lift what's possible beyond what you even expected. This happens to me on a daily basis. This is a notebook from a 13-year-old girl, Victoria, that I met in Puerto Rico just a couple of weeks ago. It looks like a typical notebook of a 13-year-old girl, you may think, on the study. She came running up to me in her school wanting to show me this notebook, and when I first saw it, I said, okay, this is going to be great. There's going to be some nice notes that she has, maybe a story that she wants to share, etc. And then she started opening up the notebook. And this is pages of this. She is working on predictive analytics and algorithms to help understand the implications of hurricanes to protect and support her country after Hurricane Maria. And this is a 13-year-old girl who's often learning in the context of her education, but she's learning with resources, she's learning from others, and embracing technology to solve something that's meaningful to her and her family. I had a chance in Paris a couple of months ago to introduce a 15-year-old girl. Her name is Brianna Gopal. She walked on stage. There was a room like this with teachers from all over the world, and she started talking about her work using AI and quantum computing to cure heart disease. And I get a chance to meet students like this all around the world. And by the way, they're not strange. They're not prodigies. This is the potential we have in every classroom. When I visit your schools, and I visit schools in Spain, I say one thing, or two things. One thing teachers like, the other they may not like. The first thing I will tell students is to find an object in the classroom that they see every day and put a mental note that every time they see that object, to remember to expect more. Expect more from their family, their schools, their education system, themselves, to achieve more and recognize that anything is possible. Shift student mindset. The other thing I tell students that teachers may not like is to question everything. Question why we learn everything we learn. Question what's in the test. Not so we can get the right answers, but why are we assessing what we're assessing and how they can fuel their own future. Be purposeful in learning. Now, student agency has been a big part of our focus. This is growing in society, and it's something that we need to unleash. And I'll share, this is not only important in the world of education, it's been foundational to Microsoft. Our education journey has been fueled by a focus on finding and unleashing student agency. And I'll give you a couple of examples. These are 4 acquisitions Microsoft has made in our recent history, many of you which you may not even realize Microsoft acquired. All of them have been trying to solve the issues with regards to employability, workplace gaps, and addressing student agency. It starts with Minecraft. How do we unleash creative learning grit with students to overcome problems and challenges in their classroom? How do we prepare them to think differently about learning and collaboration in a purposeful way to move on a world of work where LinkedIn comes along? How do we help them to purposely connect and communicate in a world of technology to share, to solve problems, to address the issues that the world is facing? That's where GitHub comes in. And lastly, Flipgrid is about sharing and accelerating student voice, a tool that educators can use in the classroom on a mobile device to extend learning beyond the classroom, to unleash the potential in all students to contribute, to collaborate, and to share their passion and ideas. This is guiding the work that we need to do. It needs to guide the work that schools do to drive this reinvention. It's not about technology. It's about truly unleashing student voice. I feel good about the work that we have, and I'm certainly going to highlight the role of teachers and end with this. In all the conversations I have with education, we've got to remember the value and importance of educators as we go forward. When we do this, when we bring together great thinking and great leaders with courage and conviction to drive change, there's nothing that can't change in ourselves, in our schools, and our classrooms. Reinvention in education, it starts with us, it starts with leaders, it starts with people, and it starts with shifting mindset on teachers, on students, the purposefulness of technology and how it's used to drive real change. Thanks for the work that you're doing here in enlightED. Thanks for the work that you do every day to connect and collaborate. I will be spending 30 hours connecting with students on the classroom and the Microsoft Global Learning Connection, where we use digital tools to reach out to students and learn. I encourage you to join me. Get a camera, turn on a student, connect to a classroom, hear and listen about the great potential. You'll know, as I do, and I get a chance to learn about this every day, that we have a bright future in all economies, in all countries, when we can unleash the talent within our classrooms. Thank you.
Take 'em off the topic up, who but I'm slowly hiccup, who took a boy, he want marijuana, he got held down to his knees, got to be a joker, he just do what he please.
And together, I know. Obviously, this was not rehearsed. Allow me to switch to Spanish to introduce our next speaker of today. Permitidme que cambie al español para presentar a nuestro siguiente ponente. Porque se trata, en primer lugar, de un aragonés al que todos tenemos mucho cariño. Y no porque seamos de la organización, sino porque somos españoles. Él representa la marca España como hombre de negocios y como persona. Como hombre de negocios y como antiguo presidente de Telefónica, él llevó al buque insignia de las telecomunicaciones en este país a la expansión internacional y, como diría Buzz Lightyear, to infinity and beyond. Como persona, sigue siendo marca España porque como actual presidente de Fundación Telefónica está obsesionado con la educación y con la educación digital. Y por eso ha venido hoy aquí para insistirnos en este mensaje. Para mí es un grandísimo honor presentar a César Alierta.
Voy a hablar en español y os voy a explicar por qué. Yo creo que la mayoría de los que estáis aquí sabéis lo que es el Club Bilderberg. El Club Bilderberg es una reunión de unos 120, 130 personas que se reúnen un par de veces al año y que ellos piensan que son los más listos del mundo. Evidentemente hay algunos que son muy listos y otros no tanto, ¿no? Y hace 4 años yo estaba en la reunión de Bilderberg y levanté la mano y dije, aquí casi todos los que estamos pensáis que quitando el mandarín, evidentemente, que es chino, el idioma que más se habla en el mundo es el español y el inglés, ¿eh? Pero estáis todos totalmente equivocados. El idioma que más se habla en el mundo, los idiomas que más se hablan en el mundo, es el Android y el iOS. Pero el Android y el iOS tienen un problema, que los algoritmos finales los conoce solo Google, Apple, o en el caso de Facebook, Facebook, es decir, que conocen vuestras vidas. Y esto es un atentado contra la libertad. Entonces yo en esa reunión dije, de todos los que estamos aquí, el único que es libre soy yo porque tengo este teléfono, que es el mismo que sigo teniendo. Y ni Google, ni Apple, ni Facebook, ni WhatsApp saben mi vida. Este es uno de los mayores problemas del mundo. No hay libertad. La historia de la humanidad es una lucha por la libertad. Y evidentemente, con esto de que los algoritmos finales solo lo saben las OTTs, pues las personas, las empresas han perdido su libertad. El otro día, el primero que hizo una presentación, que era Neil Ferguson, puso 2 cuadros diciendo que había una lucha mundial entre Estados Unidos y China. Él es de Stanford y encima estaba convencido. Se le olvidó decir una cosa, que las compañías americanas de telecomunicaciones no tienen ninguna red fuera de Estados Unidos. Y las compañías chinas solo tienen red en China. Y el resto de las comunicaciones pasan a través de los móviles, las líneas fijas y la fibra de todos el resto de las compañías. Y lo que él pensaba que era la Tercera Guerra Mundial, error total. No va a haber Tercera Guerra Mundial. Lo que hay que solucionar de una vez es el problema de la privacidad. ¿Y eso es solucionable? Sí, es muy solucionable. ¿Técnicamente se puede hacer? Sí, se puede hacer. Yo espero y estoy convencido que esto lo va a dirigir, evidentemente, la Unión Europea con el apoyo de América Latina, de África y del resto de los países de Asia. Pero este es un problema muy, muy importante. Y, sin embargo, es un problema del que no se habla. En este cuadro que estamos proyectando se ve cuál es la evolución de la riqueza en la historia de la humanidad desde 10.000 años antes de Cristo hasta la actualidad. Como veis, hasta la revolución industrial, el crecimiento de la riqueza y el bienestar de la sociedad fue prácticamente cero. Con el desarrollo de la revolución industrial, se ve claramente en la curva, se acelera muchísimo el desarrollo de la riqueza y el bienestar de la humanidad. ¿De acuerdo? Y con la revolución digital, que empezó en torno a 1995-1996, va a ser muchísimo mayor. Estamos, si miráis a la gente por ahí, están pesimistas. Y tiene bemoles que esté la gente pesimista cuando estamos ante el mayor crecimiento del bienestar de la humanidad. Y de la humanidad hablo de la humanidad, de todos los continentes. ¿Y cuál es el problema? Es que este cuadro, los que estáis aquí, lo sabéis, y algunos más, pero la mayoría de la población no lo sabe. Y voy a decir una cosa que además es triste. Muchos de los que mandan no lo saben. Y si los que mandan no lo saben, calcular los de abajo. Llega el momento de decirle a la sociedad, al de un pueblo perdido de Zambia, que tiene una oportunidad espectacular. No os quiero decir en Europa y demás. Y eso hay que hacerlo, porque va a ser posible. Pero para hacer posible eso, lo que es necesario, y aquí estos días se habla mucho, es la educación digital. Tenéis unos datos allí que muestran claramente que un incremento de la digitalización del 10% de la economía produce un incremento del PIB per cápita del 40%. 40%. Escucharéis todos los días y leeréis los periódicos en la tal que el PIB per cápita va a crecer el 3 o el 4 o el 5%, si puede crecer el 40%. Lo que tiene que hacer es digitalizar la economía. Y empiecen ya a digitalizar la economía para que el PIB crezca al 40%, ¿de acuerdo? En las 2 últimas décadas, y hay que tener en cuenta que realmente la revolución digital empieza en torno al 2000, la quinta parte del crecimiento se ha debido a la digitalización. El impacto económico de la digitalización no se refleja en las cifras. Si os fijáis, al final los macroeconomistas utilizan 2 variables, que es la inversión y el consumo. En las cifras que manejan los macroeconomistas sobre inversión, no figura para nada la inversión en temas digitales. Y en el tema del consumo ni existe. Evidentemente, como decía Neil Ferguson, se lo llevan todo los americanos a través de utilizar las redes de todos nosotros. Pero el consumo digital sube muchísimo y va a seguir creciendo muchísimo. Y esto significa un potencial espectacular. Vivimos en un país, perdonad que no sois españoles, pero voy a hablar de España y del resto del mundo, en que cuando hacen las encuestas a la población, de lo que más le preocupa es el paro. En España hay 3.300.000 parados, como 35% de la población. Y es curioso saber que el año 2018, en este país, no se pudieron cubrir 300.000 puestos de trabajo que demandaban las empresas y la sociedad porque el sistema no los produce, el sistema educativo no los produce. Esa cifra para Europa es de 4 millones, quiere decir. Y los cálculos conservadores dicen que de aquí a 2022, es decir, a la vuelta de la esquina, España va a necesitar 2,5 millones de gente preparada con conocimientos digitales. 2,5 millones es el paro. ¿Cómo se soluciona el paro en este país? Con educación digital. ¿Habéis oído en alguno de los debates famosos a alguien hablar cómo acabar con el paro a través de la educación digital? Yo no. Y es lamentable. Y todas las soluciones que dan no sirven para nada, cuando la solución es facilísima, que es educación digital. Se calcula, y esto está claro, como decía antes, que 7 de cada 10 niños que están en primaria y en secundaria van a trabajar en profesiones que hoy no existen. Si os acordáis, no os acordaréis, cuando estudiamos la Revolución Industrial, que se robotizó la producción porque antes todo era a mano, dijeron que eso iba a acabar con el paro. ¿Qué es lo que pasó? Que la Revolución Industrial creó miles y miles de puestos de trabajo como consecuencia del proceso industrial. Pues en la revolución digital eso va a ser así. Y además va a ser en los próximos años. Luego, a los niños de primaria y de secundaria hay que enseñarles ya esto. El 60% de las empresas de España no encuentran gente suficiente con conocimientos digitales. Y eso que voy a hacer un comentario. Y lo voy a hacer. Me ha costado un montón de años convencer a la COE que tenían que impartir cursos digitales para las pequeñas y medianas empresas, porque si tú tienes una empresa de 40 o de 50, es muy difícil que veas la necesidad digital. Eso es fácil. Eso es facilísimo. Por fin se ha dado cuenta. Y los que sí se han dado cuenta son los sindicatos. Yo le decía un día a un líder de los 2 sindicatos mayores, oye, a ti lo que te preocupa es que tus afiliados ganen más dinero. Pues lo primero que hay que hacer es cursos digitales para que encuentren trabajo, que ganen mucho más dinero. Bueno, ¿qué es lo que hay que hacer con la educación digital? Lo primero, a nivel mundial, enseñar valores. Porque la experiencia nuestra en Telefónica, que trabajamos en toda Latinoamérica y en África y en partes de Asia, es que los valores son los mismos. Los mismos. Y segundo, lo que tienen que aprender desde el principio es aprender a aprender. Y hay que dar educación digital en primaria, en secundaria, en formación profesional. Los cálculos que hemos hecho en la Fundación es que en este país, en España, dar formación profesional digital en todas las escuelas de formación profesional que lo siguen preparando para ser carpinteros. Yo no tengo nada contra los carpinteros ni contra los fontaneros, pero lo que hace falta es gente preparada en conocimientos digitales. ¿Sabéis cuánto costaría? 200 millones de euros. ¿Lo han aplicado? No. ¿Qué es lo que haría? Que cientos de miles de chicos que están haciendo formación profesional encontraran un trabajo si tienen una educación digital, que tampoco es tan complicada. Y después, en alguna de las ponencias se ha hablado de los MOOCs. Yo os voy a contar mi experiencia personal. Yo estoy en el consejo de la Columbia Business School y estaba de presidente de una universidad muy importante de España, y cuando llegué les dije, hay que digitalizar la educación. Después de 5 años sin hacerme caso, me fui. ¿Y por qué no querían digitalizar la educación? porque en el sistema español, latinoamericano, europeo, gran parte, un señor saca su cátedra, se aprende sus temas y sigue durante 30 años explicando lo mismo. Y no se pone al día, quiere decir. Y eso es un desastre. No voy a decir que Columbia Business School sea un modelo, pero por lo menos cada 2 años el decano dice que va a quitar a un profesor tal porque no está al día y va a poner otro que esté al día, quiere decir. Pero hay una cosa que se ha descubierto y del que se ha hablado en varias ponencias de aquí, que son los MOOCs. Los MOOCs significan Massive Online Courses, tienes que actualizarlos continuamente, de tal forma que la educación esté al día. Nosotros, evidentemente, nos hemos dedicado a desarrollar MOOCs en español, porque otro que hablaba antes con el anterior hacía MOOCs en inglés. Y los MOOCs en español tienen un éxito tremendo. ¿Y por qué? Porque un chico perdido en un pueblo de los Andes o del Amazonas brasileño puede aprender lo mismo que si está en Sao Paulo o en Lima, a través de los MOOCs. ¿Y qué es lo que hay que hacer con los MOOCs? Con los MOOCs hay que hacerlos para que aprendan los profesores. Nuestra experiencia, empezamos un programa en América Latina que se llama Pro Niño, que lo empezó José María, el actual presidente, para sacar los niños que trabajaban y darles una educación, pero claro, nos dimos cuenta que teníamos que darles una educación. Y entonces, en mitad de un pueblo de los Andes, pues le pusimos un ordenador. ¿Cuál es el problema? Que los profesores, los niños aprendían en un mes a utilizar los ordenadores y los profesores no. Y ese problema sigue existiendo en todo el mundo. Se acaba mucho de cómo actualizar la educación de los profesores. Pues el sistema está inventado. Aquí hay una chica, Lucía Figar, que se le ocurrió un sistema para la Comunidad de Madrid que funcionó muy bien. Se le ocurrió hace muchos años, que había que ir escuela por escuela a ver quién eran los 20 o 30 más espabilados porque tenían conocimientos digitales y que les enseñaran a los demás. Pero ¿qué es lo que tiene que pasar a partir de ahora? Hacer MOOCs para todos los profesores de cualquier país en el idioma suyo, para que tengan los conocimientos actualizados. ¿Eso es difícil? Eso es facilísimo. ¿Cuesta dinero? No cuesta. ¿Qué asegura? Asegura que los profesores están al día y a los niños y niñas les enseñan a estar al día. Y eso es clave. Las personas deben ser el centro de la formación. Esto está clarísimo. Y cada vez es más fácil. Y nosotros en la Fundación Telefónica nos dedicamos a eso y vemos que funciona muy bien. Muy bien. Ahí estoy proyectando un cuadro. Tengo que reconocer que la idea... Yo soy bastante preguntón y siempre me acordaré de la fecha, 14 de junio del 2014, fui a comer con el Papa Francisco y le pregunté, oiga, ¿a usted qué es lo que más le preocupa en el mundo? Y me dijo, mire, alerta, lo que más me preocupa en el mundo son los niños del tercer mundo que no tienen educación y nunca saldrán de pobres. Y yo le dije, eso hace 6 años no tenía solución, pero ahora tiene, porque a un niño le das una tableta y aprende en un mes. El problema son los profesores, que no son digitales. Y efectivamente, en el mundo hay 50 millones de niños que no van a la escuela. Nosotros empezamos en el año 2016 Vamos a acabar ya este año con 10 millones de niños, 8 millones en Latinoamérica y Asia y 1,5 millones en África. Y funciona muy bien. ¿Qué es lo que funciona muy bien? Lo que buscamos es la igualdad, ¿de acuerdo? Y vemos que un niño en Nigeria sabe lo mismo que un niño en Zaragoza o en Barcelona, porque tienen los mismos instrumentos. Y lo que hay que actualizar es a los profesores, ¿no? ¿Y eso se puede hacer? Pues sí. Voy a contar una anécdota que no la voy a contar, pero la voy a contar. 1 de junio del 2015, una cena en la Cancillería de Berlín, estaba la canciller, el presidente de la República Francesa, el presidente de la Unión Europea y 8 más que estábamos para rellenar. Y yo levanté la mano y dije, ¿sabe cuál es la diferencia entre Europa y Estados Unidos? Que en Europa tenemos 25.000 expertos digitales en algoritmos y en Estados Unidos tienen 1 millón. Pero aquí en Europa tenemos cantidad de chicos matemáticos, físicos, ingenieros y tal, que pueden ser expertos digitales y no costaría mucho. Y en esa reunión había el presidente de una empresa más importante del mundo y me dice, oye César, eso no es tan fácil. Y digo, oye, por cierto, te voy a contar una anécdota. Desde un pueblo perdido del Amazonas peruano, hay niños en ese pueblo, sin moverse del pueblo, que programan para tu empresa. Y no tienen que irse del pueblo. Y entérate cuando vuelvas. Y eso es así. No sé quién el otro día, uno de los ponentes, hablaba del peligro de la concentración en las grandes ciudades. Si a un sitio cualquiera llega la fibra, un chico o una chica puede trabajar desde un pueblo igual que podría trabajar desde Madrid o de Nueva York. Con la ventaja que la vida es más agradable en un pueblo de 2.000 habitantes que si vives aquí en Leganés, que está en el Quinto Pino, ¿no? Y eso es así, Como consecuencia de eso, pensamos alcanzar los 50 millones de niños y lo vamos a alcanzar. Pero en el mundo hay 250 millones de niños que tienen una educación, pero que es una educación que no sirve para nada. Educar a un niño desde los 5 a los 17 años, cuesta 300 euros. 300 euros por 250 millones de niños en todo el mundo son 75.000 millones. Hay que tener en cuenta que estoy hablando entre 5 y 17, o sea que los 75.000 millones hay que dividirlos por 12, porque no todo de golpe. ¿Y eso cuánto es? Eso equivale al gasto en armamento en el mundo en 2 días. Y el mundo no estaría mejor educando a los 250 millones de niños que gastándose 2.000 millones diarios en armamento. Muchísimo mejor. O sea, además, si no va a haber guerras. Hay un tema que sí que me gustaría hablar, que se me ha pasado, que es el siguiente. La educación es necesaria digital en todos los sectores, en cualquier sector de la industria. Pero a mí me gustaría recalcar en la sanidad. Yo lo voy a explicar por qué. Yo hace 5 años, yo soy miembro del Consejo Cultural de la Caixa. Llegó un señor que era el jefe de oncología del hospital más famoso de Barcelona y nos dijo que si le dábamos 4 millones de euros, curaba 2 cánceres. Bueno, se los dimos. Volvió a los 2 años y dice, ya he curado los 2 cánceres. ¿Ah? ¿Y cómo lo has hecho? He cogido a los que tenían ese cáncer, les he mirado el genoma a través de Big Data, porque la Big Data es la base de todo, y lo he comparado con los que no tienen ese cáncer, que tienen 3.200 millones de genomas, y localizo 35 genomas. Me concentro en los 35 millones y curo el cáncer. Y dije, jope, por 2,5 millones de euros curamos un cáncer. En el mundo hay 5.000 enfermedades que no se sabe el diagnóstico. Y el otro día, si os acordáis, el de IBM habló de los supercomputers. ¿Qué es lo que va a pasar con los supercomputers? Que van a ser una realidad dentro de 8 o 10 años. Cada uno de nosotros, tenemos 90 billones de neuronas. 90 billones de neuronas. ¿Qué va a pasar con los supercomputers? Y eso va a ser, no sé, voy a ser pesimista, 10 años. Ahora voy a coger una enfermedad, y como esa cantidades, le dicen, este tiene Alzheimer y no se sabe cómo se cura. Cuando funcionen los supercomputers, miramos el cerebro humano completo a través del Big Data y con algoritmos y vemos qué neuronas no le funcionan al que tiene Alzheimer. Y entonces la investigación médica se concentra en esas neuronas y se cura el Alzheimer. Y como el Alzheimer, todo. Fue muy interesante el otro día la presentación de uno que habló de la felicidad. ¿Os acordaréis? Estuvo muy bien. Pero al final las emociones, la alegría, la tristeza, el llorar, la depresión, no son más que un reflejo de algo que nos pasa en el cerebro. ¿Qué va a pasar con los supercomputers, el Big Data y el análisis del cerebro? Que se va a poder identificar qué parte de nuestras neuronas producen la alegría, qué parte de nuestras neuronas producen la tristeza, qué parte de nuestras neuronas producen la depresión. ¿Y eso va a pasar? Sí. ¿En cuánto? Bueno, siendo pesimista, 10 años. Yo creo que antes. ¿Cuál es el problema? El problema lo voy a decir. Que no se gasta el mundo suficientemente dinero en investigar cómo crear los superordenadores para combatir una cantidad de problemas que tenemos tremendos. Había una chica ayer que hizo una presentación muy buena de cómo aprender y cómo no aprender, dejar de aprender, irte a la cama y dormir y no sé qué, joder. Si cuando tengamos los supercomputadores vamos a saber por qué aprendemos, dónde lo almacenamos, dónde no lo almacenamos. Y eso que ahora nos parece a nosotros, ¡hala!, que tienes que hacer un curso de psicología y tal. La psicología va a desaparecer. ¿Por qué va a desaparecer la psicología? Porque a través del análisis del cerebro humano se va a saber cómo se trata un problema psicológico y otro no. Y hay un tema muy importante. Tenemos una experiencia en Telefónica que ha funcionado muy bien, que es a los que no tienen formación, darles un curso de empleabilidad, que si es presencial es mejor y si no puede ser online, dura 6 meses. Se lo hemos dado a 1.800.000 personas y el 60% de los que tenemos controlados ha encontrado trabajo. ¿Qué es lo que va a pasar? En el panel anterior había una chica hablando de los refugiados. Ir a un centro de refugiados y ver los que saben algo y los que no saben, a través de un programa digital de empleabilidad, le enseñas una profesión y se ganan la vida. ¿Y eso es factible? Sí, nosotros lo hemos visto y es factible. Es más, este programa de empleabilidad, pues ahora lo utilizamos entre gente de 18 y 26, pero claro, lo vamos a utilizar con gente de 30 y 40 que quiera aprender una cosa y lo pondrán a hacer sin mayores dificultades. De empleabilidad se habla mucho ya. Hace 5 años vino José María Espaguete y me dijo, vino de Perú y me dice, en Perú hay chicos brillantes que tienen ideas digitales y que nadie les hace caso y se tienen que ir a Silicon Valley. Bueno, vamos a crear un programa para fomentar todos estos chicos y chicas que tienen ideas digitales y creamos un programa que se llama Guaira, que quiere decir viento en quechua, que ya lo tenemos en todos los países y como podéis ver en las cifras allí, tiene un éxito espectacular y va a tener mucho más. Y como siempre en estas cosas, lo que nos gustaría es que nos imitaran, porque eso crearía muchísimo más empresarios digitales en cualquier tipo de cosa que están por todo el mundo y que, claro, hasta ahora o emigraban a Estados Unidos o no tenían posibilidad de ponerlo en marcha. Y eso se va a acabar. Y es fácil, muy fácil. Yo, en una reunión en el Palacio del Elíseo, dije que en Europa nos gastamos en esto de fomentar el emprendimiento digital 4.000 millones de euros le ganamos a Silicon Valley. Ya me diréis si Europa no se puede gastar 4.000 millones. Europa, estoy hablando de Europa, 4.000 millones de euros en fomentar el empleo digital y ganarle a Silicon Valley. No es que me preocupe mucho Silicon Valley, pero ¿por qué no le vamos a ganar? Y finalmente, os quiero decir una cosa. Aquí se habla mucho del tráfico de Internet, de los millones y millones y miles de millones de datos que se trafican en Internet. Nosotros calculamos que el 40% del tráfico de Internet que existe ya es malo. Malo quiere decir todo. Falsas noticias, comentarios negativos, todo tipo de cosas negativas. El 40%. Y los cálculos más conservadores dicen que el año 2025 el 70% del tráfico de Internet va a ser malo. A mí, lo voy a decir, yo estudié Derecho. El otro día me quedé impresionado del panel de abogados que nadie habló de delitos digitales. Cuando, si cogéis el 40% del tráfico mundial de Internet y es malo, nadie dice nada. Cuando tendrían que estar preocupados por eso. Pero no los veo preocupados. La legislación tendrá que cambiar. Pero nosotros en la Fundación estamos preocupados. Y hace 20 meses empezamos a trabajar en una cosa que es la ética en el mundo digital. Llevamos 20 meses trabajando. Yo calculo que en 8 meses lo tendremos completado. ¿Por qué? Porque lo más importante en el mundo es el ser humano. Y como lo más importante es el ser humano, al ser humano hay que protegerlo de todas las intoxicaciones, malas noticias y demás, que proliferan muchísimo a través de Internet. ¿Esto se puede solucionar? Sí. Mis cálculos, yo creo que lo tendremos para el mes de junio del año que viene. Y eso va a ser un paso muy importante para toda la humanidad. Muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias. Gracias, Third Floor. Muchísimas gracias. Nuestra banda de emprendedores, además, que antes los emprendedores se quitaban la corbata y ahora se la ponen por llevar la contraria. Sigo en español porque ya se nos ha ido ya el horario y todo esto, ya de perdidos al río, from lost to the river. Así que voy a pasar a presentar el siguiente panel, pero no lo voy a presentar porque vamos muy limitados de tiempo. Simplemente voy a invitar al escenario para hablar sobre temas de privacidad y desinformación a Diego Rubio, a Alex Romero, a Carissa Vélez. Y tenemos, sí, está aquí Javier Bardají, bienvenidos. Un aplauso para ellos. Sí, Diego, Javier, Alex y Carissa. Y lo van a hacer en español porque Spain is different. Adelante, gracias.
Muchas gracias. Bueno, es un placer estar aquí. Os voy a presentar muy brevemente a nuestros panelistas para que comprendáis el privilegio que supone tenerlos y enseguida les doy la palabra. Javier Bardají es el CEO de A3 Media y tiene una dilatada experiencia en el mundo editorial, en el mundo de la televisión, en el espacio digital, así que es una persona idónea para tratar estos temas. Alejandro Romero es uno de los data scientists más reconocidos que tenemos en este país, CEO de Alto Analytics, a mi modo de ver una de las mejores empresas de análisis de datos que hay en Europa. Y la doctora Carissa Vélez, que es investigadora en la Universidad de Oxford, especialista en ética y en privacidad. Muchos la conoceréis porque publica asiduamente en El País y en medios de comunicación españoles. Muchas gracias a los tres por estar aquí. Tenemos que hablar de dos temas que son muy interesantes. La revolución digital, como sabéis, trae grandes oportunidades a los ciudadanos, pero también grandes amenazas. Dos de las que han obtenido mayor visibilidad en los últimos años han sido precisamente el de la privacidad, el de la violación de la privacidad y del mal uso de los datos, que se está haciendo para distintas cosas, desde alterar resultados electorales a vender productos a determinadas personas. Y, por otro lado, el problema de la desinformación. Carissa, te quería empezar preguntando a ti, ¿cuál es la relación entre estos dos problemas? Porque a menudo parece que son dos fenómenos no conectados, pero en realidad están íntimamente ligados.
Gracias, Diego. Es muy buena pregunta. Bueno, como sabes, como historiador, la desinformación y la propaganda han existido desde que existe la política. Eso no es nada nuevo. ¿Qué es nuevo en la era digital? Lo que es nuevo es que ahora la propaganda y la desinformación son personalizadas. Es decir, que a ti, como Diego, te conoce una empresa, te hace un perfil, vende ese perfil y luego muchos actores y agentes en la esfera pública, incluidos criminales, hackers, gente que hace propaganda, gente que hace campaña política, compra ese perfil y trata de influirte de acuerdo a tu psicología. Entonces, por ejemplo, Cambridge Analytica, la famosa firma, tenía este concepto de los persuadables. Entonces, calificaba a gente que estaba segura de que iba a votar por un candidato u otro, y luego había un grupo de gente que no estaba tan segura y que podía ser convencida de otra cosa. Entonces, por ejemplo, si tú querías votar por Hillary pero no estabas tan seguro, pues ibas a ver información sobre cómo votar no tiene sentido, no vas a cambiar el sistema de ninguna manera, entonces mejor quédate en casa y no votes. Si por el contrario estabas tentado a votar por Trump pero no estabas seguro, pues ibas a ver información de que Hillary es una persona terrible, que se come niños, y que Trump es una persona maravillosa, que además le preocupa justo lo que a ti te preocupa, ¿no? Entonces, si te preocupa el trabajo o pues, el sector minero o yo qué sé, cualquier cosa que a ti te preocupe en particular, eso es lo que vas a ver. Y claro, eso cambia muchísimo, porque antes todo mundo podíamos ver la propaganda, entonces podíamos discutir qué nos parecía bien, qué nos parecía mal, podíamos intercambiar impresiones, pero hoy todo mundo vemos nuestra propia burbuja que está justamente hecha para nosotros. Entonces, hablar se ha convertido en algo muy difícil y esa es una muy buena razón para proteger tu privacidad, para que no te puedan fichar, no te puedan poner en una caja y explotar tu psicología.
Fantástico. Alex, tú has estudiado mucho cómo funcionan estos procesos de desinformación. De hecho, en Alto publicáis algunos de los informes más interesantes que tenemos sobre algunas de estas campañas en redes. No sé si nos podrías dar un poco los conceptos y contarnos un poco los detalles, porque es un proceso mucho más complejo y mucho más detallado, sofisticado de lo que a veces pensamos, ¿no?
Muy bien. Bueno, encantado de estar aquí. Gracias por invitarme al panel. A mí me gustaría contar tres cosas fundamentalmente, ¿no? Profundizando un poco en lo que comentabas y echándonos un paso para atrás, a mí me gusta siempre contar que el principal problema que tenemos como ciudadanos, como usuarios de Internet, es que el mundo digital, tal y como fue concebido, no fue pensado para ser usado de forma maligna, para ser usado con una intención de manipulación de la opinión pública. Y los modelos de negocio que se asientan sobre ese entorno digital favorecen, de hecho, justo los ejemplos que estábamos escuchando antes, ¿no? El problema no son las fake news, la desinformación o la verdad o la mentira, esos son los síntomas. El problema es que ese ecosistema digital incentiva la utilización intencionada, maligna o con una intención de manipulación de todas las herramientas que proporciona la publicidad segmentada, cierta anonimicidad en la creación de perfiles, etcétera, ¿no? Y el primer punto que quería comentar es que solo si desde un punto de vista de researchers o de compañías entendemos bien cuáles son las posibilidades que ofrece ese mundo digital, somos capaces de gestionarla, ¿no? Ese es el primer punto. Luego el segundo punto que quiero comentar es, porque estamos en un foro de educación, ¿no? Hemos trabajado en entender esos procesos y en Alto hemos llegado a la conclusión de que la educación es probablemente la única posibilidad real de combatir la desinformación, ¿no? La educación orientada a crear en aquellos a los que educamos o se educan un cierto espíritu crítico a la hora de analizar la información que les llega, precisamente por la gran capacidad que hay de segmentar mensajes. Yo no voy a profundizar mucho porque sé que vamos mal de tiempo, pero yo recomiendo a todos que miren una cosa que se llama el Media Literacy Index, ¿no? Que es un índice muy interesante que lo ha publicado el Open Society Institute, que básicamente hace una medición de cuál es la resiliencia de distintos países para convertir la desinformación. Y es un índice que agrega cosas como, por ejemplo, la penetración de la educación superior en un país, los resultados de PISA, ¿no? Y lo voy a leer porque es muy curioso, o sea, y no es una gran sorpresa. ¿Cuáles son los países que mejor están situados para combatir la desinformación? Finlandia, Dinamarca, Holanda, Suecia y Estonia. Países que, primero, uno, tienen sistemas de educación bastante avanzados y dos, son países que están en la frontera y en territorios donde existen unas grandes campañas de desinformación, ¿no? Y por último, el tercer punto que quería señalar es, vale, la educación es la gran solución. ¿Regulamos o no regulamos? ¿Cómo lo hacemos, ¿no? Y aquí hay dos modelos muy interesantes, el modelo francés, el modelo alemán, que se están centrando en regular e intentar bajar los contenidos de Internet y de alguna forma establecer procesos que supongan barreras de entrada a las campañas de desinformación. Y yo creo que eso tiene un grave problema porque genera un debate público sobre la libertad, sobre freedom of speech y sobre la libertad de expresar tus opiniones, ¿no? Que yo creo que es un debate complejo, donde seguro que podemos tirarnos un panel entero solo discutiéndolo. Y quizás el modelo alternativo que están ofreciendo países como Dinamarca, donde se centran en la educación, no es tan a corto plazo exitoso, pero sí que desde luego crea esa resiliencia necesaria para combatir la desinformación. Y solo como un punto para terminar, cuando hablamos de la desinformación y hablamos de educación, todo el mundo tiene en su cabeza procesos electorales, manipulación de opinión pública. Nosotros tenemos constancia de que ya hay campañas de desinformación en muchos países europeos que están dirigidos a públicos entre los 8 y los 12 años. Es decir, niños que tienen full access a un móvil, acceso a Internet, y que están siendo ya objeto de campañas de desinformación. Yo creo que eso plantea un problema desde el punto de vista social no menor.
Desde luego. Muchas gracias, Alex. Javier, tienes muchas cosas que contarnos, pero yo quería empezar preguntándote por cuál es el rol de la televisión en todo este tema, ¿no? Porque parece que las redes sociales son casi las únicas responsables tanto de un mal uso de la privacidad como de desinformar a la ciudadanía, pero en realidad el proceso de desinformación lleva en marcha mucho tiempo y la televisión también ha tenido un rol positivo y negativo en él, ¿no?
Bueno, muchísimas gracias. Primero, muchas gracias por la invitación, por estar con dos grandes aquí como Carissa y Alex, y sobre todo Telefónica y su empresa por esta invitación. Yo no tengo muy claro por qué me han invitado. Supongo que entiendo porque represento al paquidermo que agoniza medio tradicional y que está en ese entorno digital en sus últimos estertores. O también puede ser que me inviten porque soy un provocador y por tanto soy un propagador de fakes a un ritmo sideral, ¿no? Lo que yo creo es que la televisión es un elemento vertebrador del sistema informativo en un país, y en este caso en España, porque la televisión eminentemente es una manifestación local. Nosotros siempre decimos, y yo me gusta decirlo, que somos brutalmente locales, y nuestro sino es local. No somos una televisión, la televisión tradicional global, como puede ser el caso de Netflix, como puede ser el caso de HBO, etc. Por lo tanto, tenemos esa responsabilidad. Somos además una empresa digital. 25 millones de usuarios únicos pasan por los medios de A3 Media todos los días, con lo cual eso ya nos dota de otra mayor responsabilidad. Y por tanto, yo entiendo que desde esa voz autorizada es de la que podemos hablar. A mí me preocupan tres cosas, básicamente. Una primera, que hayamos perdido primero la batalla del lenguaje. Es verdad lo que decía Carissa, esto de la desinformación y de las fakes han existido siempre. Nerón ya hizo una gran campaña de intoxicación para poder actuar contra los cristianos de forma para legitimar su conducta. Y por tanto las fakes es una expresión válida, pero en el fondo es una derrota, no estamos dispuestos. Una mentira no puede ser noticia, es una contradicción bajo ningún concepto. O sea, nadie acepta hablar de una falsa compra para referirse a un robo, o nadie acepta hablar de una falsa victoria para hablar, por ejemplo, de una derrota, con lo cual no tendría sentido. Las fakes son mentiras, los que las dicen o distribuyen son mentirosos, es un síntoma de algo más grave, en mi opinión, que es el relativismo, del todo vale, de que cualquier medio, no hablo medio de comunicación, cualquier plataforma es válida para defender y ganar adeptos, súbditos, y por lo tanto es trágico que en una sociedad produzca lo que Goebbels dijo tantas veces, de que una mentira repetida 1000 veces se convierte en realidad. Por tanto, no podemos obviar que en este nuevo entorno, y también alguien ha hablado del mal y del bien, y no es algo naif decirlo, lo que no ocupa el bien lo termina ocupando el mal. Y esto es así, y está pasando. Pero vamos a poner nombres y apellidos a los culpables de estas cosas, ¿no? Primero me gustaría poder decir que no nos podemos lavar las manos. Es decir, aludiendo a una supuesta neutralidad o transparencia de la tecnología, o lo que es peor, como a veces hacemos, trasladando a los usuarios la responsabilidad o a los algoritmos, como si fuesen cosas impersonales, y no a quienes lo diseñan y a quienes los gestionan. Facebook y Google no pueden ponerse de perfil. Ellos son los responsables de las autopistas, de sus normas, de los contenidos que transitan por ellas, de las normas de conducción y de los efectos que causan esas normas en esas autopistas. Son responsables también de la viralidad, y viralidad etimológicamente viene de virus. Y engancho también con otra idea que dice Alex, los virus se tienen que prevenir. Lo otro son síntomas, son sintomatologías. Nosotros, por ejemplo, estamos defendiendo mucho el tema de seguridad vial en A3 Media, pero nos hemos dado cuenta que lo que tenemos que hacer es hacer mucha pedagogía para que no siga habiendo accidentes en las carreteras. Aquí pasa lo mismo. Tenemos que prevenir. ¿Y prevenir de qué? De que hay usuarios que se han convertido en vendedores de noticias a través de likes o de compartir y reenviar mensajes, y tenemos usuarios sin obligaciones ni conocimientos que se convierten en distribuidores de supuestas noticias. Nuestro control de calidad en los medios tradicionales, o mal llamados tradicionales, son los periodistas y los editores. No hay otro control de calidad. La segunda idea es necesaria una mayor regulación en el entorno digital. O sea, no tiene sentido que en las televisiones tengamos totalmente acotada, por ejemplo, nuestra actividad, casi como si fuésemos una eléctrica, y en el ámbito digital se haya convertido en una especie de campo sin ningún tipo de obligación. Y yo tampoco tengo una visión naif, pero no podemos quedarnos de brazos caídos, los reguladores, la administración, por compleja que sea la situación para actuar sobre ella, por complejo que sea el fenómeno digital, sin actuar en legislación con Google y Facebook. Ellos se han hecho imprescindibles en muchos aspectos, pero no ha sido un proceso casual. Han buscado los controles más débiles, se han aprovechado de ellos para consolidar su posición. Yo siempre defiendo que la verdadera disrupción para los medios de comunicación no han sido Google y Facebook, fue el nacimiento de Internet. Ahora, el uso, la estrategia de Google y Facebook ha ido un paso más allá y ha impuesto sus propias reglas. Y, por tanto, no se puede descargar la responsabilidad en los usuarios. Si hemos conseguido que los bancos, la letra pequeña de los bancos, a base de muchísimo esfuerzo, sea un elemento que ya no tragamos los consumidores, oye, el acepto a una farragosa condiciones de privacidad en la que los usuarios y los ciudadanos estamos aceptando no se sabe qué cosas, pues no podemos hacer una dejación de funciones en eso. Pero esa dejación de funciones lo están haciendo los gobiernos y las administraciones, tanto a nivel nacional como sobre todo a nivel europeo. ¿Y la paradoja cuál es? Que en esa situación, un ciudadano que se cansa de la situación parece que lo que tiene que ir es a un juzgado, denunciarlo y se tiene que poner a litigar con una gran multinacional. Bueno, lo que nosotros nos merecemos instituciones fuertes, que defiendan a los ciudadanos, que sean capaces de crear mecanismos que protejan nuestra intimidad y nuestros derechos. Y sin duda, las instituciones implicadas no creo que estén haciendo todo lo posible en este terreno. Leía el otro día una conferencia que daba Thompson, el presidente del New York Times, y de la BBC también lo fue, que daba una imagen que me gustó mucho. Es decir, nos estamos fijando en la basura que está llegando a las playas, entendido como una metáfora, vemos los plásticos, vemos los restos, y creemos que el horizonte es el horizonte, y el horizonte es el tsunami. Y tenemos unos legisladores que están mirándose el pie y no están mirando, por lo complejo que es la situación, legislar sobre ese tsunami que están intentando parar con las manos cuando es el mar el que está viniendo. Y por último, una reflexión que tiene que ver también con la televisión, que es la memoria compartida. Una de las grandes cualidades que yo creo que tenemos en la televisión, o por lo menos en el A3 Media, es que no se ha valorado suficiente que somos generalistas. Que queremos dirigirnos a un público diverso y plural, que no tenemos un discurso monolítico, damos diversos puntos de vista. Buscamos integrar, unir, en lugar de separar. Somos la viva memoria compartida de tu país. Y es un poco lo que decía Carisa, desde ámbitos publicitarios, desde ámbitos incluso académicos, no para hablarse de las bondades de los usuarios segmentados, en pequeños grupos muy compactos, desde el punto de vista informativo. Y este tipo de audiencias son el origen de algunos de nuestros problemas democráticos, porque fracturan la sociedad, porque son grupos cerrados que no buscan nexos de unión con los demás, buscan militantes súbditos a sus principios. Y utilizo militantes de forma premeditada. Estamos asistiendo a un proceso en el que no se pueden debatir las ideas, como bien dice Carisa. Por un lado, el relativismo hace que conviertan en sagradas todas las opiniones, cuando es evidente que al proclamar que no hay criterios objetivos para discernir si unas son más valiosas que otras, estamos equivocándonos, porque hay unas más valiosas que otras. Se tolera más el desacuerdo, a los rivales se les juzga más con dureza y tenemos menos debates y muchas más descalificaciones. Claro, lo grave es que si uno identifica sus puntos de vista con su persona, con su propia identidad, no hay diálogo posible, porque cualquier idea es un atentado a mi propia identidad como persona. No hay discusión entonces. Y en este caldo de cultivo yo creo que se encuentra el famoso discurso del hate speech, el discurso del odio, en un entorno digital donde además nos atrevemos a decir cosas que nunca diríamos en un entorno analógico. Y por tanto, cuestionar una idea no es criticar ni juzgar a quien la expresa, y entonces eso no ayuda a rebajar la crispación. Por tanto, la televisión, y contesto finalmente, es un elemento, en mi opinión, de cohesión y vertebración, tiene ese futuro por delante atractivo si lo entiende así, y por tanto se puede resumir en esos 3 puntos. ¿Qué hemos intentado también? Y termino, hacer pedagogía. O sea, yo creo que nuestra misión es intentar formar, dar criterio, convertir ciudadanos con espíritu crítico. Hemos lanzado en los últimos meses una iniciativa potente que se llama Levanta la Cabeza, que la habrán visto muchos de ustedes en nuestros informativos sobre todo, en la que permanentemente estamos dando información que tiene que ver sobre consejos sobre privacidad, visibilidad de estudios que alertan sobre el mal uso de las nuevas tecnologías. Y es básicamente un uso responsable de las tecnologías. Llevamos ya casi más de 100 informaciones, esto no es publicidad, 100 informaciones estos informativos que habrán visto en torno a unos 8 millones de españoles en los últimos meses. Esa es nuestra aportación a este debate, ¿no? Y luego intentar hacer bien nuestro trabajo todos los días, que es el más importante.
Genial. Muchas gracias, Javier. ¿Qué se puede hacer desde la educación para resolver este problema? Porque en materia de desinformación, por ejemplo, si ustedes analizan cuál ha sido la reacción de la sociedad en los últimos 5 o 10 años, el esfuerzo se ha centrado en los famosos fact-checkers, que están genial, pero la evidencia empírica nos dice que tiene un impacto muy limitado. En realidad, los fact-checkers ayudan a reducir las mentiras por parte del emisor. Hay estudios que demuestran que cuando un político habla, si sabe que le están haciendo fact-checking, tiende a ser más prudente en sus declaraciones, pero la misma evidencia nos sugiere que no tiene ningún efecto sobre el receptor. La gente no utiliza como heurística, como referencia de la verdad, una enciclopedia. Es una cuestión de política de identidad. Si se siente identificado con Trump, lo que dice Trump es verdad y lo que dice el científico es mentira, ¿no? ¿Cómo se puede combatir esto desde la educación?
En cuanto a la privacidad, yo creo que hay 2 ideas fundamentales. Una es, uno de los mayores mitos sobre la privacidad es que es algo que nada más le importa al individuo, que si te importa la privacidad tienes que tener pudor y que es sobre tu propia vida. En realidad, la privacidad es un problema colectivo y se parece mucho más al problema de los virus, para el cual hay que vacunarnos, o al problema del cambio climático. Y ahí entra lo que dice Alex, de que incluso los niños están siendo objeto de desinformación, ¿no? Porque, por ejemplo, si tú tienes hijos y tus hijos no están en Twitter, no están en Facebook, pero tú publicas fotos sobre ellos, historias, si van a la escuela y les piden los datos biométricos, si la escuela les obliga a estar en plataformas que luego venden esos datos, entonces esos niños ya no tienen privacidad y eso desde que nacen. Y eso puede generarles toda una serie de problemas. Pero además es un problema político, porque, por ejemplo, la gente que realmente le dio consentimiento a Cambridge Analytica para cultivar sus datos fueron 270.000 personas. Las demás 80 y tantos millones eran amigos de esas personas que nunca dieron su consentimiento. Y luego está toda la democracia, tanto de Estados Unidos como de Inglaterra, que ha sufrido, y bueno, ya el mundo entero por asociación, porque 270.000 personas dieron su consentimiento a dar su privacidad. Entonces la privacidad es una cuestión de poder y también la desinformación. No es una cuestión individual. Entonces, por una parte, hay que educar a la gente de que eso es un problema colectivo y que necesitamos soluciones colectivas. Y como un pequeño paréntesis a lo que decía Javier de la regulación, a mí me parece increíble que le pidamos a los electricistas y a los arquitectos y a los doctores y a los abogados que tengan una licencia y que tengan un código de ética, y que los arquitectos de nuestro mundo digital no les pedimos ninguna cualificación, ningún curso de ética, ninguna licencia, y no hay nada que puedan hacer que haga que pierdan el poder de construir nuestro mundo digital. Entonces creo que eso es fundamental, hacer que haya una licencia profesional y un código profesional de toda la gente que diseña el mundo digital. Y por otra parte, creo que es muy importante educar a los niños en privacidad. ¿Y qué quiere decir esto? Varias cosas. Una, enseñarles a cómo proteger su privacidad en el mundo digital, cómo usar una VPN, cómo utilizar alias, cuáles son las alternativas a diferentes programas, que tengan toda la información posible. Compartirles los riesgos. Una cosa que a mí me preocupa mucho es que el índice de suicidios de adolescentes por haber compartido algo por Internet y que luego sufren humillaciones es muy alto. La policía no puede hablar de qué tan alto es, no puede hablar de números, porque se teme que si se habla de este tema haya más suicidios, que efectivamente es una preocupación importante. Pero es un fenómeno muy preocupante que tenemos que atajar. Entonces, a los niños hay que enseñarles cómo proteger su privacidad, cuáles son los riesgos y, sobre todo, respetar su privacidad. Se educa con el ejemplo. Y si a los niños les decimos que sí, la privacidad es muy importante, pero los obligamos a que nos enseñen sus diarios, las notas que se pasan en clase, si los obligamos a usar plataformas que les piden muchos datos personales, que luego los venden, si los obligamos a dar sus datos biométricos para comprar comida en la cafetería, que eso es algo que está pasando en muchos países, si se les leen sus emails, que eso está pasando en Estados Unidos y en el Reino Unido, lo que estamos enseñando es que los derechos humanos no importan, que nos lo podemos pasar y saltar cuando nos venga bien. Y así les enseñamos no solamente a no respetar los derechos de otros, la privacidad de otros, sino también a no defender sus propios derechos y a no exigir que se cumplan. Entonces, una persona vigilada no actúa de forma igual y no explora el mundo como una persona que no está vigilada. Cuando yo doy clases de ética. Y claro, en una clase de ética y política tocamos temas pues, sensibles. Y cuando doy una clase y hay un micrófono y una cámara, pues la gente no pregunta. La gente no hace preguntas incómodas, no explora ideas que puedan llevar a ciertos rincones que pueden ser políticamente incorrectos. Todo el mundo se calla, dice que sí. Y a mí me preocupa que a veces con el entusiasmo que tenemos por la tecnología, estemos implementando una educación vigilada que es más propia para ciudadanos en sociedades de control que en sociedades democráticas y libres. Entonces creo que es fundamental enseñar en privacidad y respetar la privacidad y enseñar a los chavales a cómo exigir y cómo proteger su propia privacidad.
Genial.
En términos de desinformación, yo quería comentar un par de cosas y conectar con la parte de educación, ¿no? Hemos hablado mucho de la verdad, de la mentira, de las fake news. Nosotros hemos medido multitud de campañas de desinformación en los últimos meses. Las nuevas estrategias de desinformación no pasan necesariamente por la inyección de la verdad o de la mentira o de una verdad remarcada que manipula la opinión pública. Una de las estrategias fundamentales que crean la situación ideal previa a la desinformación es la polarización. Es decir, centrar editorialmente en uno o dos temas que sabes que van a polarizar a la sociedad y crear esa división que impida el diálogo, ¿no? Yo creo que todos tenéis en la cabeza cuáles son los temas más candentes, recientes, que pueden polarizar a la opinión pública. Comento esto porque hay un proceso muy interesante, que es que cuando existen tantas posibilidades que explican un fenómeno o cuando existe una elevada polarización en relación a temas, mucha gente lo que hace es directamente abandona el interés en conocer cuál es la verdad o incluso en crearse su propia opinión. Y ahí es donde viene el éxito muchas veces de estas campañas de desinformación, que es en la desactivación del individuo, ¿no? Yo os voy a aportar un dato. Edelman, que es una compañía de investigación tradicional, realiza un análisis que se llama el barómetro de la confianza. En la última ola de 2018, el 69% de los encuestados reconocían que ya no eran capaces de distinguir qué era verdad y qué era mentira de la información que recibían, ¿no? Y creo que es Gartner que ha publicado un análisis que para 2020, o sea, para el año que viene, probablemente en las sociedades occidentales, sociedades maduras, los ciudadanos van a recibir más información falsa que información verdadera, ¿no? Y yo vuelvo a insistir en el punto que comentaba antes, ¿no? Solo si somos capaces de educar en la responsabilidad individual, en un ejercicio inteligente de la duda y del escepticismo sobre la información que recibimos y que reciben los niños, y solo si educamos en esos valores, pues vamos a poder de alguna forma equipar esas cabezas con la capacidad de defenderse frente a fenómenos que polarizan a la sociedad y que identifican opinión con identidad y hacen imposible un diálogo o que inyectan directamente mentira. Quiero terminar con un ejemplo, o sea, muy interesante. En un análisis que he realizado, creo que ha sido King's College recientemente, sobre sobre el caso del envenenamiento de Skripal en Reino Unido, que sufrió una campaña de desinformación muy interesante. Creo que lograron identificar algo así como más de 30 o 35 distintas versiones sobre cuál era la causa del envenenamiento, ¿no? Claro, cuando tú estás expuesto como ciudadano a 35 posibilidades, ¿no?, sobre qué es lo que realmente ocurrió, es prácticamente imposible que entiendas y que aceptes que algún día conocerás la verdad, ¿no? Y eso es uno de los principales objetivos que buscan este tipo de campañas, y yo creo que solo personas que le dedican el tiempo de forma muy crítica y que ejercen de forma inteligente, ¿no?, esa duda y ese escepticismo sobre la información que reciben, las fuentes, etcétera, pueden sobrevivir en ese entorno.
Genial. Muchas gracias, Javier. ¿Algo que añadir en este frente?
Nada, yo creo que nosotros también, como medios tradicionales, una aportación que tenemos que hacer es plantear una agenda informativa real, ¿no? Es decir, igual que en el Brexit estuvimos hablando de Turquía no sé cuánto tiempo, y en Estados Unidos Trump consiguió que hablásemos del muro no sé cuánto tiempo, o a los medios allí. Yo creo que el reto que tienen los medios mal llamados tradicionales pues es meterle a esa agenda un interés de verdad informativo, y eso es también nuestra responsabilidad, y no generar nosotros en cambio más versiones de las cosas, ¿no? Y yo, nada, esto para concluir, que les animo a que vean nuestra plataforma de Levanta la Cabeza, los tutoriales que tenemos para la gente más joven y para los niños, y sobre todo que nos ayuden a mejorar esa plataforma, porque es una plataforma en la que es colaborativa y en la que cada vez más estamos anexando a instituciones que trabajan en esta pelea de intentar concienciar sobre el uso responsable de la tecnología y armar sobre todo a la sociedad para que la sepa utilizar con criterio, nada más. La tecnología no es buena ni mala, es simplemente saber utilizarla.
Así es. Bueno, como ven, la educación está llamada a jugar un papel fundamental en este proceso, ¿no? Yo siempre creo que este problema nos remite a un cambio estructural que se necesita en educación, que yo le digo el retorno a los básicos, a los principios básicos. Vivimos en un mundo donde los padres están obsesionados con que sus hijos ya desde pequeñitos aprendan a programar, entrepreneurship y 40 cosas más, ¿no? Lo cual es fantástico. Pero tenemos que ser conscientes que el avance de estas nuevas áreas de conocimiento en los currículums se hace a expensas de disciplinas tradicionales que a lo mejor son más necesarias que nunca, ¿no? Queremos que nuestros hijos aprendan a programar, pero los datos de la OCDE nos dicen que cada vez saben leer peor y cada vez son más incapaces de comprender un texto en toda su complejidad. La OCDE, para que se hagan una idea, calcula el nivel de comprensión lectora en 6 niveles distintos, siendo 0 prácticamente analfabeto, siendo 6 una persona que es capaz de comprender textos complejos, ideas difíciles y contrastarlas con otras opiniones. Estamos hablando de un artículo de prensa, no estamos hablando de un manual de astrofísica. Sepan ustedes que menos de un 1% de la población OCDE logra un nivel 6 cuando se les hacen los testeos también entre adultos. Es decir, es muy difícil combatir la desinformación, proteger la privacidad en este espacio digital cuando la mayor parte de las personas ni siquiera son capaces de entender, me incluyo, textos complejos, ¿no? Con lo cual es importante que la educación, yo creo que también vuelva a poner el foco sobre estas cosas básicas como aprender a leer o a escribir, que parecía que ya estaban pasadas de moda, pero que en el fondo son hoy más necesarias que nunca.
Hay que recordar que ahora en Silicon Valley las escuelas de élite son escuelas sin tecnología, ¿no? Precisamente sin tablets, sin ordenadores, y pues ese es sintomático. ¿Qué nos dice eso?
Totalmente. Nos hemos quedado sin tiempo. Muchísimas gracias a todos. Muchísimas gracias.
Diego, perdonad, permíteme que os interrumpa. Permitidme que, como sois el último panel de este enlightED 2019, tenga el honor de cerrar esta edición en vuestra compañía. No sin antes dar las gracias a 4 colectivos importantísimos que son los que hacen posible la magia en el escenario de enlightED, que son el equipo técnico, allá al fondo, audio y vídeo, muchísimas gracias, sin ellos no. En segundo lugar, dar las gracias a nuestra super banda Third Floor, que han hecho un trabajo excelente. Cómo no, a todo el equipo de voluntarios y voluntarias que han estado a vuestro alrededor ayudando en todo momento, que sin ellos tampoco sería posible. Y en cuarto y último lugar, pero casi el más importante, yo creo que es el emblema de enlightED y es el secreto del éxito, es a nuestros ponentes, porque cada año hay mayor nivel y como vamos a tener que seguir reinventando este mundo y la educación digital, os emplazo a todos a vernos en enlightED 2020. Muchas gracias a todos vosotros y hasta entonces.
1, 2, 3.
Otra, venga, voto popular. ¿Qué quiere el público? ¿Podemos seguir? ¿Una más? ¿Cuál es vuestra... Should I stay or should I go? ¿Qué os gustaría? ¿Esto seguimos haciendo streaming? Hola. Ahora empieza lo mejor de enlightED. La fiesta. ¿Qué quiero qué? ¿Esto qué es? Yo canto fatal, ¿eh? ¿Esto qué es? Ah, que yo elija de aquí. No, si no leo nada, esto está lejísimo. No, que elija. Bueno, lo que sea, venga, va, a cantar tú. ¡Woo! Hit it!
Wow! I like it. Darling, you gotta let me know. Should I stay or should I go?